I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Planning and Zoning Thursday, November 5th. If everybody would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You just get a smile out of me every time.
Can I help it?
All right, and can we please have roll call?
Here. Here. Here.
Member Dugan,
Here.
Member Snyder,
Present.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. Awesome. And did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the minutes from the last meeting. I second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, Director, do we have any changes to the agenda? Thank you. First up then, we will have old business, public hearing and consideration request by Regal Construction and Consulting LLC on behalf of Cox Communications, DSA 2000142, conditional use permit.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Miller. So this item was discussed at the last Planning Commission meeting, but it was tabled. Tonight's presentation is going to be partly a rehashing of the past proposal for the benefit of any new audience members, and of course we now have a new commissioner. But the other benefit of this evening's presentation is there have been some updates and some new information. So the presentation is going to proceed from here. So the request from Cox Communications is for a conditional use permit to place a fence taller than 6 feet around its existing facility within the Cottonwood Commons planned area development at the southeast corner of Cottonwood Lane and Colorado Street. 1395 East Colorado Loop is the address, and that's actually the only commercially designated property within the Cottonwood Commons PAD. Now, the city code actually allows this site to have up to a 6-foot high fence, and it wouldn't require a public hearing. It would need a site plan approval that wouldn't need to be considered by Planning Commission. However, fences taller than 6 feet are only permitted if granted approval as a special purpose fence through Planning Commission consideration of a conditional use permit, which is what you'd be considering this evening. So the reason for this fence request is the Department of Homeland Security classifies Cox and other certain communication facilities as critical infrastructure. As such, the Department of Homeland Security has issued a directive to critical infrastructure facilities to implement bolstered security measures. So the manner in which Cox is implementing this Homeland Security Directive is by means of a fence placement, and they're doing this at various locations nationwide. Now, what was initially requested and what was discussed at the October 1st Planning Commission meeting was the request for a 10-foot tall tubular steel fence. And as a result of that request, there were a number of concerns expressed by not only neighbors who were in attendance, but by planning commissioners. Some of the concerns were, really the desire to see the specifics of the DHS directive. Do bolstered security measures have to specifically mean a 10-foot tall fence? Other comments received was regarding the look of the fence. It was too industrial looking and too tall for a residential neighborhood. There was also some question regarding when the Cox facility was originally constructed back in 2013, that there was the recollection that based on a neighborhood meeting, et cetera, they were indicated that there would not be any fences, and that was believed to be a promise that had been made by Cox. And so there was some direction given to me to try to find some clarity on that. There was also some belief that perhaps the Cox site was initially zoned or intended to be residential, just a little bit of uncertainty about that from the neighbors. And also what we heard was that there was an opportunity to improve the site with more trees, to soften the fence potentially and the building itself. And there wasn't any representation from Cox, and so that also made it difficult to get these answers to these questions. Commission also wanted to confirm if fencing was a topic in the May 2013 minutes, as I mentioned, and they had suggested that I work with the HOA and the Cox representatives to try to reach a resolve. So I have a couple of updates for you. Firstly, about the working with the Cox representatives and the HOA. Unfortunately, I never was able to, the timing of hearing back from Cox and coordinating a meeting between Cox and the HOA didn't occur. However, I did receive some positive updates from Cox, and I did relay that to the HOA, and I'll cover that on these upcoming slides. So firstly, what I wanted to discuss is the Cottonwood Commons history in terms of what that parcel where Cox is located, how it was initially designated. Back in 2002, this planned area development zone district was created. It was created with a 1.54 acre parcel for commercial space, and then 3.4 acres of residential space. And there was also about an acre of open space designated on this PAD land use plan. Then in 2004, a final plat was recorded, and it created 27 single-family lots and 1 commercial office parcel, and as well as 1 well site, which lies to the east. Then in 2006, there was actually Planning Commission approval of a 3-story office building for that parcel, over 25,000 square feet in size. However, they never constructed that. And 1 year later, in 2007, Planning Commission approved again a major site plan for a 2-story, 24,000 square foot office building on this lot. Fast forward to 2013, and the Cox facility was proposed for that site, and it too was approved by Planning Commission. The minutes of that meeting were attached in your agenda packets. There was reference to there being a neighborhood meeting in the lead up to the Planning Commission consideration for the site. However, in those minutes from that meeting and in the associated staff report, it didn't really dive into what topics were covered at the neighborhood meeting. And in the minutes, it really didn't reference any sort of indication that there would not be a fence. However, it did come to my attention that there was a little bit of discussion about the generator on the site. The generator on the west side of the building is screened by a 12.6-foot wall. And there was a little bit of verbiage in those minutes about concern about the height of that wall. And so although I don't know for certain, I was not here at that time, what one possibility was is there was some concerns of the surrounding neighbors that a wall that high, 12.5 feet, was going to be around the perimeter of the site. And perhaps it was indicated to them that no, it was just limited to the west side of the building to screen the generator. So what was initially proposed was this 10-foot tall tubular steel fence. And a positive update for you this evening is that after relaying the concerns from Planning Commission and the neighbors to Cox, they revised their proposal, and they are instead proposing a 7-foot tall fence. And as you can tell, it has a lot more interest to it because the bottom 3 feet of the 7-foot fence is CMU block, and the top 4 feet is tubular steel. And by reducing it 3 feet in height, it's only 1 foot over that which would be allowed on the site without a conditional use permit. The other advantage of modifying their fence with a pony wall on the bottom and steel up top is it does go a long way to matching some other fences in the neighborhood. That top photo is a fence at Ironwood Commons, just to the south, Ironwood Elementary, just to the south of the Cottonwood Commons PAD. And as you go down Colorado Street, there's some other examples of residential fences where you'll see it's of wrought iron construction. Now, yes, these two photos do not reflect a 7-foot tall fence, but the fence that Cox is proposing, albeit is taller, is set back from the property line by a recommended condition of 15 feet. So it won't be right next to the sidewalk, but rather there'll be some space created, which is an opportunity to dress that site up with some additional landscaping. There are some other conditions that staff is recommending to mitigate impact. Firstly, the fence is to not exceed 7 feet in height, and the condition specifically specifies, I know that's redundant, I apologize, but the bottom 3 feet is to be masonry and the top 4 feet is to be tubular steel. Cox did indicate that 7 feet was the minimum height that can be proposed, and so there are representatives here this evening to speak to why they can only go as low as 7 feet and some of the specifics of the DHS directive. But what I did here is that they could reduce that to 7 feet. And so the recommended condition is to ensure that the fence is not to exceed that height. Staff is also recommending that no additional screening elements to the fence be allowed. The purpose of that is so that over time there isn't any sort of mesh that is put up behind the exposed part of the fence, behind the tubular steel portion. That's not recommended for a number of reasons, because if they provide that additional screening, then the public really couldn't see what's going on behind that fence, and whether it would be intended or not, it would lend itself to maybe some future uses like storing outdoor items, etc. This keeps it more open and visual, and it reduces that appearance of massing if it were a solid wall. The other recommended condition is that the final landscape plan for this site be revised for additional trees and areas abutting streets per the satisfaction of planning staff. The photo that you see on this screen is a good example of some opportunity to perhaps add some more trees to soften the look of the building and also the fence that is proposed. Because we're recommending that the fence be no closer than 15 feet from the property line, it will allow for both the existing landscaping and any new landscaping to exist between the fence and the property line. There is a slight modification to one of the conditions that was reflected in your staff report. What your staff report shows is that the condition is that the fence is to be no closer than 15 feet from property lines. I did add a modifier to that, except near the site's southeast corner, where the fence can be closer to the property line to accommodate the fact that there's a curve in the property line, and the placement of the existing trash enclosure creates a pinch point where the east-west fence will meet the north-south fence. So that corner will be a little bit closer to the front property line than 15 feet. But what's not on the property line, what's beyond the property line, is the public sidewalk and a couple of feet of right-of-way beyond the sidewalk. So in no case will the fence be right up next to the back of the sidewalk. When considering conditional use permits, these 5 criteria must be evaluated. And normally I just highlight the most important, but because this did receive a lot of response, I wanted to talk about all 5 criteria and how staff feels that these have been met, especially in light of the fact that Cox has made some revisions. The first criteria that has to be addressed and met is that the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and topography. A key word of this criteria, however, is that all yard spaces, walls, fences, parking, loading, and landscaping are adequate to properly relate to the use within the land and uses in the vicinity. So in looking at their specifically now proposed 7-foot tall fence, it does go a long way to match that of fencing at the nearby school at Ironwood Elementary. And the fact that the top is tubular steel and spaced 15 feet from the back of the property line will help minimize the appearance of mass that a fence has next to adjacent areas. And we are recommending that the landscape plan be amended to add trees to address that specific concern about landscaping being adequate. The other thing that I want to point out is that in the Ironwood Commons neighborhood, there's a approximately 8-foot tall fence on the south side of Manor Drive at the southwest corner of Manor and Potabom. And you can tell even there that the fact that there's some landscaping that exists between that approximately 8-foot tall wall and the sidewalk goes a long way to soften the appearance of that wall. If you notice on the north side of Manor Drive, it's considerably shorter in height. The second criteria that has to be addressed is that the site for the proposed use relates to streets and highways, adequate in width and pavement type to carry the quantity and kind of traffic generated by the proposed use. So the fence really will not generate traffic, and the purpose of the fence is not so that additional traffic can be generated. However, it will have a gate now at the entrance, and the gate installation shall be verified to meet fire code approval at the time of building permitting. The presence of the fence is not being proposed in order to change operations of the site. It's just to add additional security, and hopefully the Cox representatives can speak to that more. But it does not pertain to a traffic issue. The third criteria is that the proposed use shall be in accordance or in conformance with the general plan. So the general plan designates this area as neighborhoods, which accommodates low-density residential development and neighborhood-scale business primarily. Other supplementary uses are those that help support neighborhoods. So this communication facilities use is appropriate. As far as the fence specifically, there's a goal and policy within the general plan that indicates that, when we're looking at land uses next to one another, so in this case it's a non-residential use next to a residential use, we're to encourage compatibility. So staff feels that their revision from a tubular steel fence to this fence that's part tubular steel, part pony wall, does go a long way to make the fencing compatible with the surrounding residential land use. And there's a policy in the general plan that states that fencing should be used as a method to minimize land use conflict. So the fact that they're using fencing that is similar to what you see at Ironwood Elementary, it does help make the site perhaps blend in more so that onlookers of the site will not necessarily see just a parking area and the building, but there'll be a fence of more of a residential style that will help dress that site up. The fourth review criteria is that the proposed use will have no adverse effect on the abutting property, and I think this is probably the most sensitive of all of the criteria. Although unfortunately I wasn't able to coordinate a meeting to discuss how these neighbors' concerns would be directly resolved by Cox's revised proposal to do a 7-foot fence. I do feel that the applicant has responded to those concerns by reducing the fence height, changing the fence style, and the fact that staff's imposing some additional conditions to further reduce the impact. So those conditions that are recommended are specifically listed in the associated resolution for this conditional use permit, and there's 9 of them, and I basically hit upon all of them in this presentation and within the staff report. However, just to reemphasize, other than that southeast corner, the fence shall be placed no closer than 15 feet from all property lines. No additional screening elements will be allowed. The fence shall be subject to an approved site plan with an approved building permit, which they do have under review at the moment. The gating shall meet all applicable fire codes. If they were to go to paint the fence, it shall have planning department approval to ensure compatibility with the approved color schemes of the existing residences. The fence and gate shall be maintained in good condition by the owner or their designee. The final landscape plan is to be amended for additional trees and areas abutting streets. And shall a different use be proposed for the site, the fencing and gating shall be removed unless a new conditional use permit is considered and approved. As far as the public notification efforts, because this was originally noticed for the October meeting, which is what generated the first round of concerns, but then tabled, there was a second round of notification sent out. And the correspondence received as a result of the public notification efforts have been provided in your staff report. I did hear from one additional resident as a result of the second notification, just asking for information and expressing general concern. And then there was some continued correspondence with the HOA, giving them the updates as I received them. But unfortunately, I never got the specifics that they were seeking with regard to what is prompting this directive. But again, the Cox representatives are in attendance this evening to help clarify that. So staff does recommend that the Planning Commission approve this conditional use permit, subject to some cleanup items, mainly regarding that the gate has to meet with fire department approval, et cetera. But then those additional specific 9 conditions that I've discussed that are part of the conditional use permit resolution. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? Mr. Dugan.
You said that you couldn't get the HOA and the Cox together for a meeting, correct?
Yes.
So you were talking to both sides, and did you tell the HOA approximately what Cox has proposed?
Yes.
And what was his, what's his consensus of this? Coming from you, did he like the project, or he was still against it?
I didn't get an exact read, Commissioner Dugan, except for there was still concern about what was driving the need specifically for a fence, and then also just confirmation that I could not find anything, or what about there having been some sort of past promise that there would never be fences. So to the best of my ability, I did say, well, there will be a representative here this evening to explain the specifics. And then I did provide the minutes from the 2013 meeting and opined that I couldn't find any thing that clearly spelled out that there would not be any fences. It was not a condition of approval as part of that. I mean, that would be the first thing I would go to look for to see if the site plan was approved with the condition that there shan't ever be a fence, but that wasn't stipulated.
Any other questions for staff? Yeah.
Has it been determined with this DHS request, was it a request or was it a mandate?
So that's a great question, Commissioner Peters. The representatives from Cox can explain that aspect of what was driving the need for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay then. Long-awaited moment. We will bring up the applicant and/or their representative. Like to come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Don Sevalier. I'm a senior critical facilities engineer for Cox. And you want my home address?
Or your business address. I
It's
guess.
1550 West Deer Valley Road, Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for being here this evening. Commission, do you guys have any questions? There we go. Member Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo Mr. Peters' question. It's been, several times it's been said that DHS delivered some sort of directive or mandate or some sort of edict to Cox to bolster, quote, to bolster security, unquote. And I think the question that I have and I'm hearing from Commissioner Peters is, was it a mandate, thou shalt build fences? Or was it a directive to do so? Or did they simply say, improve your security, it's up to you to do it?
Rather than interpret that on my level, I have brought our security director with me who has firsthand knowledge of that question, and I'd like to have him answer that. Alan, if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening. To answer your question, I'm Alan Sequel. I'm the Director of Physical Security Investigations for Cox. I work out of 1550 West Deer Valley Road in Phoenix, Arizona. The Department of Homeland Security had, it was actually a presidential document that came out after September 11th. All critical infrastructures, which are identified as telecom, electric, power companies, you're familiar with all those, had to bolster security for a number of reasons. Obviously, the terrorist attack started that. But in addition to that, as a telecommunications provider, specific building types have to be protected with additional security measures. This particular site is a telecommunications distribution center where the signal comes in and then is distributed to our customers. The buildings are secured in such a way that they're protected with additional equipment such as CCTV, access control, alarms, etc. In addition to that, it is not a mandate, but it is a highly required, a recommended physical security protection. The specification is minimum of 7 feet. Our company policy has then adopted that for any facility that falls into the criteria as they describe in those types of buildings. So since early 2000s, whenever that presidential, I can't remember the name of the document, came out, we've started adding fences to all of our what we call technical facilities, data centers, those types of facilities that have information coming in, both signal for TV and internet as well as customer information. It's just another layer of security. So we've been building since then, which I would say the early 2000s.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, sir, a quick follow-up. So what I think I heard you say is that Cox adopted a policy which then said, we shall build fences that are a minimum of 7 feet, perhaps higher, but a minimum of 7 feet. That was an adopted Cox policy. Again, not necessarily based on a thou shalt from the Department of Homeland Security or even the presidential executive order?
Yeah, so we adopted that at their recommendation. So all critical infrastructures were recommended to build security fences.
Per Cox policy.
Well, Cox policy basically was written to comply with, well, to adopt that requirement.
Member McBride.
I've got a follow-up question into that still. The dates are what kind of throw me off a little bit. This has been a mandate for your company since the early 2000s, correct?
Yeah, I would say somewhere around 2004, 2005.
And this facility was built after 2013, correct?
I couldn't tell you when the facility was built.
It was, believe me, it was. So at the time your policies were in effect, you didn't adhere to your policies, you chose not to? I'm guessing, I know that you weren't making the decisions at the time, but there was a decision made at that time not to follow what your policy said?
No, what happened is about 4 or 5 years ago, we started ranking our facilities based on risk, and I actually brought the CAP Risk Index, and what that is a crime analysis of the market and the building. So what we did is we prioritized the buildings. Obviously, we're a corporation with a budget, and so we took the very high-risk buildings and started working down that list. This is a very secure community. It has very low crime risk compared to other locations across the country. So we started attacking those high-risk ones first. And of course, as we get down the list, we get to the lower crime risk locations such as, Casa Grande.
Okay, so you're saying about 4 years ago is when you started implementing bringing the policy to fruition, basically, and I understand picking and choosing your battles and getting the worst ones first.
It was formalized about that period of time.
Okay.
It was more ad hoc across the country. If you could do it, and there was a budget for it, it was done. But because we were not a centralized business at the time, we were decentralized. So back in about 2000, and I would say 10, we went from 26 regions to 6. That's when we started making local policies and adopting national policies and national standards so we could hit all these locations uniformly, using the same budget and working off of that list. When you had 26 different budgets, each region could decide how they wanted to spend it. I'm a security guy, and we don't generate revenue, so when I ask for a budget, for cameras, access control, or fencing, I don't always get top priority, even though I think it's probably the most important thing.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Yeah. Member Dugan.
Have you ever been broken into this facility since you have built this facility?
No.
Okay, and if you put this fence up, it's a block wall on the bottom 3 feet, and then the top is 4. Well, if somebody wants to get in, all they do is jump up on the brick and they jump over it. They can get over it in a matter of seconds. So what good is the security around it?
Security, we put different elements to deter different types of criminal activity. The fence will deter or delay a criminal event. What we're hoping for that we'll get additional time to detect the person once he gets over the fence, when our cameras will then pick him up and alert our command center. So therefore, the response from the police might be more successful. So that's just another layer of security.
One last question. If somebody got in there and broke into the thing, what does this communication system carry? Would it knock out everything in Casa Grande?
It very well could. So you have, from the telecommunications center, the signal comes in and then is distributed or transported outward from there through our nodes to our amplifiers to a customer's home, a resident's home. I can't speak specifically to the cost, but I know that we're talking several $1 million in equipment, and the bigger MTCs have $500 million of equipment. It's not just necessarily the outage that occurs. It could be sabotage or something else would be a significant loss.
And do you have cameras all the way around it so you can secure it through camera tree through a security company?
Yeah, so there is specifics on standards on camera placement where they go on the outside of the camera and the types of devices that we use to secure the doors as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the applicant?
One more.
Member McBride.
One more. And I know it was alluded to the first meeting, something about the 911 system being tied through this. Is that through the homes communicating out? Is it through the police department utilization of it going, from them out? How would 911 be affected by this if there was a disruption?
911, we have backup power for that. So if you have a power outage, we have batteries that will continue to power the 911 service so that a customer could dial out. Obviously, our concern is if we have a power outage and a battery loss, then we would not have 911 service.
Let me
Sure.
touch on that too. I think that Rachel Aha, for the record, representing Cox Communications, 1550 West Deer Valley Road in Phoenix. Everything that Cox serves is served on the same line. So we serve the 911 centers, we serve homes that can call out. So if something happens and our system goes down to your home, then there would be issues with that. We also serve hospitals, police stations, and those kinds of things. So that's our major concern. Whenever there's an outage or some kind of a breach to our system, the 911 system could be compromised.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. I got it. Thank you.
Is that it?
I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? No, at this point. All right. Well, thank you.
I just,
Wait, one
I-
more.
I just have one comment. Do you see those pictures on the building and all the weeds and everything up? I would think as a public company, you would keep that looking a little bit better. The pictures here were absolutely terrible. I wouldn't want my house looking like that on the outside. And the neighbors might have they want to keep it looking nice. And it sure wasn't looking nice on these pictures you showed today.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for being here this evening. We may at some point, because I apologize, I didn't go through my normal how the meeting will run, but at some point we may ask you guys to come back up in case there's any additional questions. But for now, thank you. All right, so we're going to get that wiped down, and then we will open up the public portion. So that way the public will have the opportunity to speak or express any comments, concerns, and or questions on this agenda item. All right. Just please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Nick Brulette, and I am at 1396 East Colorado Loop. Happens to be the property directly across from the building. You guys answered actually, or asked some of the questions that I was curious about as well. It doesn't seem like there's a specific requirement from the DHS that there needs to be a fence. It's Cox's opinion that they want one. They might see a need from it from a security standard or from a security level, but it's not from DHS. If it was from DHS and it did come after 9/11, in the early 2000s, then why didn't we hear about it in 2013 when the building was being requested to be built? And I don't see how that really changed. If they knew that in 2013 and they know it today, we should have been aware of it back then. Some of the examples that were given of schools and churches that might have similar fences around it, I think we can both agree that churches and schools have a little bit of a different value of property than a blank secondary communication center. I'm speaking from a property owner that bought the property in 2011 and it was just an open plot, and now I'm seeing the changes over the years and seeing how maybe my decision in moving to Casa Grande may have been affected because of that. So those are some of the questions that I'm interested in. And I believe at the beginning, I'm sorry, I don't remember, Jim?
Yes.
You said, and I quote, that Cox is implementing this this fencing be built in various locations around Arizona. So the various locations means that it's not a mandate, it's just a kind of a pick and choose. And when Don and Alan presented their information, it's clearly a budgetary thing, and they're working their way down, and I just don't feel like Casa Grande and this particular property needs the fence.
Thank you.
Barry Morris, 1379 East Colorado Loop, Casa Grande. I'm the HOA president, homeowner. At the last meeting, the board or the commission had given an order that we would meet with Cox to go over this so that you guys wouldn't have to sit through this again. We were available. We reached out to Jim to question how come there wasn't a meeting, and we remained available. Probably a week ago, we did receive some information that they were going to present this tonight, which did not really give us time to speak to everyone again about what they proposed. So I have some information from the homeowners that we hear things like you're going to upgrade the landscaping, but it's not specific to where and what you're going to upgrade it with. With the proposal that they have set forth, that retention basin, if you would go there and visit it, it looks like a rat trap. There are kids that go through there with quads. It affects the homeowner to the right, me facing that picture there. That part of that retention basin hasn't been maintained in a while. If they own this facility and they want to secure it with the liability and everything else, they should secure their whole facility and not leave it up to us as an eyesore. The other part, I have an email from Daniel R. Hulk. He was the representative for Cox back in 2013. He says to me, Julie, and my wife, who happens to be a LinkedIn partner with him, and they keep in touch, he says, I have attached 2 properties below which we are basing our design from in Casa Grande. One is Green Valley, 1714 Commerce Point, and the other one is 6461 East Mitchell in Florence. And he sent 2 pictures. And these were the pictures that he allowed all the homeowners to see. And this is before Cox purchased the building, because part of their spiel, they were going around with the realtor. And it was the realtor who was forcing the homeowners with bribes. And I said this before. One of my homeowners told me that they offered him a case of beer to sign the paper. But on these pictures, this is where there was no fence. It was going to look like this, and that's what we have. Now, I understand that the mandate to bolster buildings came way before this building was built, and I made reference to that in the last time I was here, and there's a lot of ways to bolster a building without a fence. You can have extra cameras. The gentleman said that by putting the fence, they could see the person quicker, or whatever. To me, you can hide behind the fence and then jump over the fence. I don't know, but I don't think the fence helps secure the building. You talked about there's ornamental iron on the fence. Some of the ornamental iron looks pretty industrial. That iron could be made to look way better. I would have hoped that they would have met with us, showed us a mock of what they wanted, and we could have said yay or nay, and not have to sit before you again and say that we do not want this fence. It's not going to be conducive to how things look in our community, and that's what I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Audrey Sexton. I live at 1361 East Colorado Loop. First, I'd like to say that I never received any notification of this meeting, and I was only told about what was going on because of the sign that was posted. So and Nothing was sent in the mail to me, but it affects all of us. There are only 27 houses on that street, on the loop. And although I live on the southernmost street, it affects all of us. And I would like to reiterate what Nick said and what Barry said, that this should have been addressed when the building was built or when it was in its initial planning stages. And it seems to me that it would be a lot more cost-effective to have an elaborate alarm system than to have a fence. And I agree with Barry, and many of the other community members agree, that the whole property should be fenced in. We have problems of students coming over from Mission Heights Prep School, and they have fights in the park. There are also activities going on in the park that no parent would want their child engaged in, including drug activity. I've called the police on people who are smoking pot over in the park. High school students doing things on having intimate relations on the children's play area, the park, the structure that's there with the slide. So the high school that's across the street, if you just fence in the area that the building is in, that retention area is left open, and it's a perfect path to the park. I realize that it's already open, and I'm not looking for Cox to fix our problem with that. Perhaps working with the school would be a better idea. But if they're going to put a fence in, I think it should be around the whole area. So that's my thought. Thank you very much.
Barry Morris, 1379 East Colorado Loop. Just for clarification, Cottonwood Commons Homeowners Association does not want a fence.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Vanderslice. I live at 1385 East Colorado Loop. The picture prior, it will show the home that actually faces the Cox building. I'm on the northeast corner. We have, in addition to our sliding glass doors, we have 9 windows that face the Cox building now. First and foremost, I will agree that I don't agree with the fence. I don't believe that it would improve security. I know the head of security had mentioned perhaps it would give him or delay people from getting to the building itself by having this fence. My question is though, if memory serves me correctly, this building is brick. I do believe the doors or the gain of entrance is maybe 2 ways other than the very top of the building, and I may stand corrected, but I do believe the doors are steel. So again, I think that having video would be sufficient, or maybe even, a better alarm system. Secondly, with facing the Cox building, Mr. Dugan mentioned, and he brought up a very good point, was, and I have several photos here that were just taken today of dead bushes, of a multitude of leaves, trees, branches, et cetera, that have built up in that retention area that is owned by Cox. And I also believe by putting a fence there, they will just be able to ignore it even further and turn a blind eye and not have to look at it, while me, my family, friends, and of course the people of the neighborhood have to continue looking at it. I do agree that if we are overruled and a fence does go up, I would ask that the fence encase the entire area. That way, it may force them, you know, maybe they won't have to, you know, they won't want to look at that retention that it looks like an abandoned lot, to be quite honest. Not only when it rains, they don't have a well there, a dry well, if you will, that will drain the water. So when the water builds up, it attracts a multitude of mosquitoes. And of course, as you know, there's a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and one thing leads to another. Lastly, just as recent as, I want to say it was either the day before or the day of Halloween, there were families that would travel down the road, and then they would travel between the Cox building and my cement wall that, you know, obviously blocks off my home, but they were traveling through ATVs through that retention. It just doesn't seem to make sense to put a fence up. I don't see that it would improve security. I don't see that it would improve the eye of the beholder of the area. And I think that by putting a fence there and not encompassing in the entire area, it will only attract, you know, more people that are not welcome or wanted, or that don't have any good reason to be there in the area or in the neighborhood. So, I thank you for my time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Trilson. I live at 1396 East Colorado Loop. Same as Nick. It's the house that is directly across from the Cox building. My question is very simple. It's a lot of the questions that you guys had is what specific policy is mandating this? So I know the Cox security representative got up and said they adopted a policy. I have yet to hear what that specific policy is and where within that policy it specifically states that a 7-foot fence is requested. So that's a question that I've had since day one that still has been failed to be answered. I know the directive that they talk about was in 2013. It's the one referenced in, I think, documentations I know Jim sent me. It's a PPD 21. Nowhere in that policy does there say anything specific about a 7-foot fence. So I'm curious as to what exact policy they're referencing. Thank you.
H. Bryan, 1392 East Colorado Loop. So I'm directly across from, I guess, between the trash can and where the gate will be. So I agree with everything that my neighbors have said, but just a few more things I think I should bring up. Back when Cox talked to us, obviously we were kind of lied to, misled, because we just found out that they started fencing before they even built this site. They did tell us there would not be a fence, so I've heard that come up when they had the neighborhood meeting. I think they were probably just lying to sell us on the idea of bringing them in the neighborhood. And they promised large greenery and big trees to hide the appearance of the building. And you can see in the pictures you've displayed tonight that it doesn't. Those trees are very small. So here we are again talking about trees and greenery to hide the fence, but we never got the greenery we were promised in the beginning. So I don't really have any faith in that's gonna happen. So that's a major issue with me. I don't want the fence at all, obviously, but if you're gonna go ahead with it, then I would like to see something or make sure it's followed through with, I guess. Because it definitely doesn't look that great. Also, he said something about the fence having to go closer in front of the trash can. I mean, that's where our homes are too. I mean, that's the issue here. There's 4 homes right there, and we're across, directly right across. And then also right next to that is gonna be the fence. So how is the fence gonna work with the new proposed brick isn't the fence gonna be metal? So is that gonna look funny right in front of my neighbor's house? I think it's gonna look really industrial. So I don't think that, that you should approve a fence. I think that you could stop this from happening, and you should. It affects the value of our neighborhood and our homes. So I would like to see them just choose a different security option, because we've obviously found out that they don't have to do a gate. I think they're lying. That's been apparent tonight. And also, some of the photos in here are a bit misleading, like the photo about there being a similar wall in Ironwood Commons. That's on a roadway. There's no homes next to that wall, that picture they put in here. It's very misleading. So I just feel like I don't know, there's an incentive to approve it or something. I don't know what's going on. The other thing is, there's been increased activity at this building since this whole fence thing has started. That was one of the points when they sold this whole idea of this building to us, is that it was gonna be one guy checking on the data center about once or twice a week. So like low activity is what they told us. So there's been increased other companies there. So I think they're building something or they're changing something, and maybe there's more to it, is what I'm saying, that they want a fence now. So maybe they should just tell us what's really going on. And yeah, if it's not a mandate, I think it should be denied, especially since it was before this building was built. I think that was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Roulette, 1396 East Colorado Loop. I forgot to ask, I'm very curious if there is a fence that's put up, the style of gate, how big the gate is it going to be a manual gate that's opened, or is it pneumatic with a key pad? I do a lot of work within the aviation industry, and the gates that go around properties like that have a lot of excess noise. Since I'm right across the street from where I'm assuming the gate would be, I'm concerned about the noise pollution of that, in addition to just the wall in general.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis Place. So obviously, I'm not directly impacted by this decision of yours tonight, other than I drive by Cottonwood in Colorado at least 4 times a day. So it does have some visual impact on me, and as you all know, I'm big in the visual impact world. A couple things I would like to say, though, after hearing all the residents tonight, and as I said last time, extremely happy to see such participation from the community, getting involved. Too often is another item that we're going to have tonight that apparently had lots of worry and concern, doesn't appear to have the same level of participation that these folks have done, so I appreciate that. First thing is really quickly on the maintenance issues around the site. I'm sure the chairperson knows that you know, there are options to get that taken care of. It's sort of a separate issue from what you're considering tonight, but you know, there is code enforcement if Cox doesn't take care of things, and there are ways to take care of that. But along the topic of tonight, first thing I want to mention is that we have to remember that, as Mr. Gagliari pointed out tonight, that if they wanted to come into planning and development tomorrow and put in a 6-foot fence, they wouldn't have to ask anybody for approval. That's allowed under the code right now. So they've come down from 10 feet to 7 feet and tried to put some architectural enhancements on it, and they're talking about additional landscaping. Again, I would like to see that more spelled out, but they're willing to make some compromise on something that, first, I want to also acknowledge that, as Commissioner Snyder snuffed out tonight, there doesn't appear to be a federal mandate for this to occur. That's pretty clear at this point from what I hear. But I want everybody to remember that they could be in tomorrow putting up a 6-foot fence and not asking for anything, and they wouldn't have to put any additional landscape in, or they wouldn't have to do anything unless staff required it. So that's something that needs to be remembered. So maybe we need to, as I mentioned last meeting, compromise might be something we can continue to consider here, because otherwise they could end up with something that's bad for everybody. It doesn't accomplish what the goals of Cox are, and it's still something that the neighborhood doesn't want. So those are just the comments I have after listening to the presentation, to Cox, and to the citizens tonight. I am always amazed that sometimes you guys have difficult decisions to make. So appreciate your consideration.
Would anybody else from the public like to come and speak to this agenda item? All right. At this time, then I will close the public portion. I know there was a number of kind of items raised. I don't know if the commission has any additional questions for staff and/or applicant.
I have one.
For which one?
James,
Staff.
that park that's next side, is that owned by the city or is that owned by Cox?
The park is across the street within the neighborhood.
Or that retention area, is that retention area is owned by Cox?
Correct. Yes.
I'll go to the map to to show the different areas. So the open space on the south side of Colorado Loop is a private open space tract owned and maintained by the Cottonwood Commons HOA.
Okay.
The retention basin to the east of the Cox building is on the Cox property, and it's private property owned by Cox Communications.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Member Schneider.
Thank you, sir. I would like a follow-up question to either the applicant or to staff about the gate. I think that was an appropriate question. How large is it? What sort of a gate is it? What's the security method of operation, and what's the noise factor?
Commissioner Snyder, I would have the applicant speak to that. It did go in for permit review, so there were some specifics detailed, but I cannot remember what they were proposing.
I'm happy to hear from the applicant if the chair allows it.
Yeah.
The gate is a rolling gate going across the driveway. It is motorized. We use DC motors with a high noise suppression characteristic to them. Does it make noise when it opens? If you're standing in the area of the motor and the gate, yeah, you will hear the gate open, yes, most definitely. But it's, like I said, we use the highest quality that we can.
I got a question for you here, too.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
yeah.
You got one more?
Hang on.
If,
Member
as
Schneider.
a follow-up, is it a magnetic card or electronic card operated?
It's all done by badge ID for the employees to get into the facility, and for anybody visiting the facility. As Alan alluded to, we have a camera and a two-way speaker right there, and they would talk to our security people to be able to get access to the building. Otherwise, it's a badge.
Okay,
badge
and
reader.
approximately how wide is that gate?
It's the width of the driveway.
So
Whatever.
10 foot?
I think it's 10 foot is what we have there. It might be a little larger, but that would be my guess.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hang on.
Sure.
Member Dugan, you have a question?
Yeah, my question is, at the last meeting, I was the one that proposed that the neighbors and so forth got together with Cox Communication. And you had almost 5 weeks to get together with them. Why didn't you want to get together and you could have solved a lot of these problems in getting together with them in their homes, and we would have never got this far. And so now you're making a rough decision. That's, of course, that's what they pay us for, which we don't. But it would have solved a lot of problems if a couple of you went out and met with the neighborhood and before we have to go through all this. I don't understand. And then Cox doesn't show up at our last meeting? What kind of representation do you guys have? That's terrible representation, I think. So I think somebody needs to work these problems out. So why didn't you meet with them last month?
Be happy to respond to that. I had a medical issue at the time, actually kidney stone attack, and was hospitalized and had to have surgery to get the kidney stones removed. So I was out of pocket for.
Okay, and I understand that, but I mean, you got hundreds and thousands of people working for you. Couldn't you find somebody else to meet with them?
Understood. At the time, I was dealing with my health issue. I don't know if I hate to say, but if you've ever experienced kidney stones, it's probably one of the most painful things you'll ever go through in your life. I don't recommend it to anybody. You're not thinking about anything else at the time. I do believe that our construction people were going to be at that meeting at the time. Our contractor was going to be at that meeting. But that full misrepresentation is on me. Like I said, I had a health issue, and I was dealing with that and wasn't thinking about, gee, I better call somebody to cover the meeting for me.
Okay.
So my apologies to the residents and to the board members here. That wasn't our intent at all. As far as meeting with the residents, we would have been happy to. Like I said, I was out of pocket for quite a while there, recovery. I did have conversation with Jim when I found out about it, and started providing some of the answers to the questions. It was just a short period of time that I had, probably 2.5 weeks that we had to get everything together that was needed.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
It's been brought up a couple different times, and I guess my other concern is more of the, I'll call it trespassing on your guys' property, and or kind of movement from, we'll just call it neighboring locations or businesses or whatever they may be that come through. Is, at least, I hate to put you on the spot, but I guess is Cox against putting a fence around the entire area?
I would say it's an additional expense to Cox to do that, and I would certainly have to change the budget to be able to support that. The reason we don't go around retention areas is because they are retention areas, and we don't want to adhere to, interfere with any of the flow of the water in those areas. In other cities and towns that we've dealt with, where we have retention on our property, they've asked us not to fence it in. So we just took a position not to do it in this case so that we wouldn't be arguing about it. But I would say we would definitely entertain it. If that's what the board members need us to do, we'll take a look at it, and we'll go back and budget accordingly. I'd like to address one thing is, I think that's missing in conversation here is, when you put a fence like this, it's twofold for us as a company. One, we do have people that respond to the facility at night, and it's dark out, and they're all by themselves. And to have an open area like this puts them at risk. So part of putting the fence up is a protection for the employees, so that they don't get somebody sneaking up on them while they're trying to do their job. The other deterrent that we have that we really didn't mention is a fence does keep somebody from driving up to the building, which is detrimental. I hate to say it, but when terrorist acts happen, some of the things that they do would surprise you, like driving a vehicle through a building. This is a multi-million-dollar facility. It does carry all of the communication for the area of Casa Grande, and all we're trying to do is protect our employees and protect the services that we provide the community of Casa Grande. And that's the root reason behind Cox's policy, is to make it as secure as we possibly can. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Same guys?
The public portion's been closed, unfortunately. I apologize. Commission? Member Benedict?
Just a couple of comments that's going through my mind about this. As you might recall, I had expressed my frustrations about the landscape, because I was on the commission when this was approved, and I certainly had in my mind more like what's on the north side than what is all around the rest of it, which is, pretty embarrassing to Mr. Dugan's comment. It's pretty embarrassing. I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for us too, not just Cox. Pretty frustrated with the lack of engagement that Cox has had with this whole process. And again, some of the other comments that were made that we sure could have solved a lot of this. Seems like what we're hearing now is they could have worked those details out and everybody would have been happy with this. And now, it seems like whatever solution we're gonna get to tonight, nobody's gonna be happy with. So.
The commission doesn't have to move the motion.
That was just my comment.
That's fair. In fairness, the commission doesn't have to move forward on the agenda item.
You're absolutely right, I agree.
That's entirely up to the commission, though.
And Mr. Chairman, we risk Mr. McGuire's issue that they come around, put up fences and never touch the landscaping is as it was, and we have.
This is true. Though they can call code enforcement because of our new Board of Appeals decision on 6-inch weeds, I believe.
Yeah,
That's correct, Director.
That wouldn't stop them from putting up a 6-foot fence.
Won't stop the 6-foot fence, but it would stop the 6-inch weed.
That's correct if the weeds are over 6 inches, that's true.
They can report them.
Okay.
FYI, you guys.
I've got something to add also.
Member McBride, yes, please.
I took out my trusty tape measure the other day, because I live very, very close to where you all are at. I mean, very close to where you're at. And the portion I measured of the Ironwood, the school, Ironwood Elementary, was 6'6". When I walked up, because I just randomly walked up to a section of the fence, took the tape measure and held it up there, and it was 6'6". So it didn't seem that far out of line, the 6'6". And I'm sure that this much more, 6 inches, isn't going to change at all. We know what you think of it. 6 inches. And so I don't see that much of an issue with the 7 foot over the 6 foot, and as been stated many times tonight, 7 foot's a controllable issue that we can do. 6 foot's not a controllable issue. We can put stipulations on a 7-foot fence that we can't put on a 6-foot fence. And so I'd much rather have it in our hands on what we can control is around that area than just to say, it's not gonna pass, and they walk out and there's nothing any of these nice people can do about them putting a 6-foot fence up. I'd like for us to be able to say, the 7-foot fence and us control it in this room. Because it's not that high.
You know, if they put the 6-foot fence out, they don't need our permission to put it up. I guarantee you, Cox Cable's gonna have one bad reputation. I'm sure that would make the paper. And I don't think they want any bad communication if they went ahead and put a 6-foot fence.
I don't think that they're here because that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Right? I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be here. You'd already see a 6-foot fence. But on top of that, they control the distance from the property line as well, right? We lose control of a lot of different things.
Yes.
And I don't think it's their intent to cause harm to the neighbors. I don't think it's their intent to be an obstruction or be an eyesore in that neighborhood. Hence the reason why they're here with multiple representatives to try and help address concerns.
And also a 6-foot fence, hard to believe it or not, the 6-foot fence is going to soften the 22-foot building as it does a school, because when you drive by the school, it's just on the other side, the south side of their properties. The school doesn't stand out as much because there is a 6'6" fence around it, or 6-foot places. That probably varies in heights. But that fence does soften that school look. And I think if we were to add landscaping such as on the north side, because the north side, I drive by it every day, just like almost everybody in this room does. Drives by the north side of that down Cottonwood Lane, and I keep looking at that. This doesn't look bad until you turn the corner, and you see the 3 trees.
What these guys look at all.
Yeah, what they look at day in and day out is those 3 trees that are sitting there instead of the 18 trees or whatever it is on the north side of it. And the trees on the north side of it, these great big palo verdes that are bushed all out. I know they get nasty but at times, but they do block the building. On the other side of it, there's fairly small landscaping that doesn't do much to hide the building. So if you were to add larger trees with the bigger canopies on them, with the 7-foot tall fence, and where they talked about at the southeast corner where the trash can is, it's not right up against the house. Between that and the next house is where the water retention basin is. So there's not going to be a fence against the house. The fence will be set back from the houses quite a ways. Because I'm not sure how big the water basin is, retention basin, but it's, looks to be 20, 30 feet.
Substantial. Right. Probably more than that. It's probably almost 20 yards from
Yeah,
the fence
it's
to the fence.
it's a ways.
Yeah. Member Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for staff. Were we to revise and ask for the fence to include the retention area, would we do that on item 2 under the recommended motion and revise that to say, revise the location of the fence to include the drainage swale?
Commissioner Snyder, I would agree. I think it would be condition 2 that would have to be modified. I think your suggested wording might work. Just as I clarified in number 2, except near the site's southeast corner, it can be as, closer than 15 feet. We may have to also say, and except where
Where it connects to the neighbor's property.
Right, exactly. So it's not just the retention basin question, but it's to where it connects to the neighbor's property. And then I would question if it would also affect number 1, because why would they necessarily put a 3-foot CMU wall and 4-foot wrought iron right up flush against an existing 6-foot wall? I mean, they could, but that stretch would make sense for that to potentially be a solid fence there, potentially.
Now, I'm sorry, along with that, is a water retention basin solely for the Cox property, or is it the community area?
It's solely for the Cox developed flows.
Oh, and if you went back to that last one where someone had stated that photo you had taken on the road that had the 8-foot fence, there's definitely houses on the other side of that fence.
Right.
'Cause I live a block away from it. Yeah,
James?
right there, there's large houses right there. You can see a canopy for the kids' play area, which is right above that.
James, can you go to the site plan with the retention basin? I was wondering if that basin is designed to take half-street flows off Cottonwood as well.
Yeah, it is. One of the pictures shows the culvert coming off of Cottonwood.
So what we would do on that is we would design like a weep hole, some weep holes in the fence so the water from Cottonwood could flow into that basin as well. But that could be an easy design.
I got one more question for the staff. You go ahead. Go ahead if you go first.
Well, I'm not a fan of developing motions on the fly, because it gets awkward, things get missed, and so on and so forth. So, were we to proceed with something such as I suggested, I would like to have staff develop appropriate language to accomplish what we say we want accomplished, and then bring it back to us for adoption at our next meeting.
It's well within your right to do so.
And also to add on to that is, would the property owners be more amiable to adding another 60-foot of fence in their area? I mean, now we're going from blocking off just this building to we're going to block off everything over there. And it's going to go up against their houses. That's something we should get input from.
Well, and there may be opportunities to potentially transition. I think it gives the opportunity as well of maybe that meeting that we never got, because maybe you transitioned from at the trash enclosure to a 6-foot fence. So then it equals, I don't know. Again, We're not here to design it, we're just here to implement planning and zoning rules. Member Dugan?
So if we go ahead and approve the wall, which a lot of them are against, my thoughts, if we approve the wall, the landscaping will be a huge part of that. And I would think they need to have an input as far as what goes on that landscaping, because they might get real skimpy on that, and I think the staff should go to the HOA, and they need to approve that landscaping, because they could just get real skimpy again on it. And because that landscaping is gonna be a big part of this, in order to make it look good and hide the wall a little bit. And it shouldn't be up to our guys, let it up to the neighbors who decide what needs to go there, because it's a big factor. That's my thoughts, but.
So part of that is controlled by staff though, right? And one of our conditions is that they'd have to submit the final landscape plan and be amended appropriately to staff's
Yeah, it was
satisfaction.
number 8.
Yeah, it's I think, on our agenda packet, but yeah.
Guys, we've been here an hour and a half discussing this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion to approve it. We can say yes or no or whatever. And then we go from there. But I think we talked enough about it. I'll make a motion to approve DSA-20-000142, conditional use permit for a 7-foot purpose wall for securing the Cox facility, with all the recommendations of the staff, and also some of the recommendations from the council here, to make sure that the staff works with the HOA to approve all the landscaping and some of the water deal and so forth. So that's my motion.
It's too vague.
I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's too vague.
So, don't get a second.
Last chance.
I don't understand
what-
the last part.
No second, no
Can
carry.
you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you want to make a specific condition to put into the conditional use permit, you can do that as part of your motion, but we need some specific language. I mean, I think the landscaping part is already pretty much in there with the landscaping plan to be approved by planning staff. So I think, that entails them working with planning staff to implement the landscaping plan. As far as the drainage basin, if you want to put a condition in here, something like Member Snyder was getting at, you just need to come up with some language. We can't just say, hey, staff, work with them. Because this conditional use permit gets recorded, so we need to make sure that it's, that we have all the conditions as we want them written, so.
So if the staff says there's only gonna be three trees there, that's all they're gonna put in. Wouldn't homeowners have an objection to that?
Hang on.
Right, yeah, and I don't know what the requirements of the landscaping plan will be, but I'm sure,
All right.
the planning staff would have a better idea, but yeah, it would be up to the planning staff to approve the landscaping plan.
So my motion died, so it doesn't matter. Somebody else can come up with one.
Member Benedict?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, since I didn't hear a second to that motion,
No, there wasn't a second.
I would move to table, request that the staff meet with both parties, come up with a specific landscape plan, a decision on the ways to fence in or not, if both parties are amenable. But if both parties are not, come up with a way to fence in the retention wall.
I would second that.
Are you seconding it?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you said you would, I want to make sure here.
I am.
Sorry, just thought I'd give us a little humor this evening. So I've got a motion and a second to table the request for staff to try and reconvene another meeting. Any discussion?
Yes, I have comment or question, I guess. It's
So great time for it.
more because we can't require these people to meet with him.
Nope.
It's just going to be a recommendation that staff they'll do their best to get the two parties together. Mr. Gagliardi?
Yeah, that's our request.
Okay, I just want to make sure that, because I know that there was a misunderstanding on the last one, because the last time
Sure.
we did this, they thought that it was a requirement, but it's just to do their best effort. That's what you had said. I just want to clarify.
Get the staff to get
Yeah, I just
meeting
want-
and get
I just want to
specific
clarify
landscape.
that.
So we have clarification that it's
Specific fence plan.
an attempt to meet, if possible.
And I've seconded the motion because it conveys our intent to pursue those issues and to develop communication between the parties as much as we can. That's our job. So,
Then I have one question before we vote on that, from the Cox representative. I have a question.
So you can't have, well,
You can't do it?
there's only discussion now, so
Oh, okay.
at this point in time, no.
I just want to know what they thought about getting together if we're wasting our time.
we'll find out.
We're gonna find out,
We're gonna come back
potentially,
here next month for an
assuming
hour
this
and a half.
carries, we'll find out at the next meeting.
No kidney stones.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We've had discussion.
Call for the question.
Call for the question? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
I have 2 noes.
Should we do a roll call vote?
We can?
Probably good idea.
Would you prefer a roll call?
Yes,
Mhm.
please.
All right.
Okay, Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Yes.
Member Estrada?
No.
Member Dugan?
I'll say yes, I'll change my mind.
Member Snyder?
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
And Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right, motion's been, item's been tabled till the next meeting.
I am.
And hopefully at this point in time, I thank you guys all for being here and participating. Hopefully we have one more meeting and we can get this moved forward in whichever direction at that meeting. So thank you.
So you can you go out the side door here? If you don't mind, I'll bring the other groups in.
Okay, you too.
Judy left you hanging.
I forfeit.
They're square sometimes.
Robert.
First meeting.
Right?
That's cool.
Holy man.
Hey, welcome to your first meeting.
Introduce them here.
That's baptism by fire, right?
It's like this at every meeting, you know?
This is the first.
All right, we've got our,
Yeah. Commissioner, or can you guys hear me?
yeah, we sure can.
Okay. Sorry, my computer crashed, so I'm on my phone now. I just wanted to make sure. Thanks. Sorry about that.
We tabled the last item, by the way.
Right, I got that far.
Okay,
And then, yep, so, all right, thank you.
you're welcome. All right, so we're gonna jump into some new business, but before then, I feel like now that we've had a really fun agenda item, I do apologize because I did not introduce our newest member, Mr. Peters here. Thank you for joining us to the commission, and what an exciting.
What an interesting start.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And they all get more complex.
That's it. So very excited to have you here, though. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Glad to be here.
Oh, all right. So moving forward, Next agenda item is going to be the public hearing and consideration requested by, Triumvirate, right? I threw that, I messed that all up, but Integrated Waste, a conditional use permit and associated resolution DSA 2000146, and a major site plan, DSA 2000145. And I'm sure I will learn how to say that here in just a moment. Mr. Horn.
All right. Well, after that last one, this one might be a little quicker, I don't know. Triumvirate is requesting approval for a conditional use permit and a major site plan to allow for a medical, solid, and hazardous waste processing facility on about 25 acres of land located at 73 South Commerce Drive. That's in the Central Arizona Commerce Park. You guys can see the location shown below. Just to familiarize you with the site plan, the phase one is going to be the non-hazardous waste processing facility. It's about 25,000 square feet, and the 7,000 square foot office. You can kind of see that in the red color. The blue is phase two, which will bring in the thermal recycling unit, the hazardous waste facility, and the medical waste facility. So we're looking at the following items for a conditional use permit, and I am going to just stick to some two key critical criteria. The first is that the proposed use will have no adverse effect upon abutting property, and the second is that the conditions stated in the approval are deemed necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. So the first one is the use will have no adverse effect on the abutting property. The site is located in the I-2 General Industrial Zone District. As stated in the city code, the purpose of the I-2 General Industrial Zone is to provide for development of industries which, because of their nature of their operation, appearance, traffic generation, or emission, would be compatible with land uses in other zoning districts, but which nevertheless would not be compatible, but which nevertheless are necessary and desirable activities in the city. This zone district provides an appropriate area for this intended use. In addition, the use is located within the Central Arizona Commerce Park, which contains other conditionally permitted uses, such as the oil recycling facility and an asphalt blending facility that is under construction. So staff believes that the use will have no adverse effect upon the abutting property. The next is that the conditions stated in the approval are deemed necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. Staff feels that the primary concerns associated with the site will be addressed through any requirements from ADEQ and the EPA. So staff is requiring the following condition is that any emission or creation of noise, vibration, smoke, dust, or other particulate matter, toxic or noxious materials, odors, glare, or heat shall conform with the performance standards set forth in section 1758.010 through 1758.140. We're going to move into the major site plan review. Again, all the criteria has been covered in your staff report. We'll just concentrate on a couple of the key components tonight. First one, again, is the conformance to the city's general plan. Like mentioned before, the use is in conformance with the general plan 2020. The general plan designation for the site is manufacturing and industry, which supports the I-2 zoning. The next is conformance with the city's zoning ordinance. The proposed use is located within the I-2 General Industrial Zoning District. The plan conforms to all the I-2 zoning standards set forth within the zoning code. One last thing I want to cover is the landscape. The preliminary landscape plan meets all the city's landscaping requirements. We will further analyze that with the submittal of a final landscape plan, but I did want to just kind of point out how extensive their landscape is on the perimeter up against the streets. It's actually going to be a very aesthetic building and location within that Central Arizona Commerce Park. In regards to notification, the city's effort met or exceeded the requirements of the city code. They included the published notices, mailed notices, and a sign posting. We did receive a letter of support from the landowner of the Central Arizona Commerce Park. We also received a call shortly before this meeting from a group that owns a site just south to it. They were more interested in just general questions and inquiry on what the use was. They didn't have any opposition or any other concerns. In conclusion, staff recommends the commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution, DSA 2000146. Also, staff recommends the commission approve the major site plan, DSA 2000145, with the following conditions: that the applicant provide one full size hard copy of the approved major site plan, and then they will also need to combine the 2 lots into 1 lot prior to certificate of occupancy. Right now, it's on 2 lots. Can I answer any comments, questions?
Member Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, do you have a sense of, and this you may want to bounce this to the applicant, but do you have a sense of the frequency of waste coming into the site? And is it truck? Is it semi? Is it tank truck? There's no rail connection, so I doubt that that's an issue, but do you have any sense of that?
They did provide a traffic statement with the application. We do have Dwayne online, but I think the applicant might be able to better address that question.
And would that also speak to the frequency of?
Yes.
Okay.
I did receive a route that they were going to take. So their access route is actually up Thornton Road across to Peters, so they will not be taking any of their materials through populated areas of the city or any residential areas of the city.
Okay, so they'll be coming in off of I-8.
Yeah, so anything will come down I-10 across I-8. Anything coming from the west will come just across I-8 and up north. But I'll let the applicant address the quantity.
Okay, and I thank you, and I'll reserve the rest of my questions for the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Member Benedict.
I have kind of a general question. I don't know if any of the staff has any idea about how much of the truck traffic in that center goes south and how much of it goes up Pinal. Is there any measure of that been made, or guesses, or?
Dwayne might have a better.
Yeah, Dwayne, are you available?
Yes, I am. The majority of the traffic goes north and ends up on Pinal right now.
But we could add that Thornton, we could add that Thornton's being designed right now in conjunction with the Lucid plant from Gila Bend Highway down to I-8, which may eventually alleviate some of that traffic going north. And Thornton is scheduled to be 4 lanes with a 1 center median lane as well, with turning and turning middle lane in certain locations.
That's going to be a lot of tax dollars from now.
Any other questions for staff? Oh, Member McBride.
A couple, I'm not sure if it should be directed toward you directly. Is this route that's going to be taken, is this the only route that can be taken? Or can they say this is the route we're thinking about and find something a little later on that's, well, it's a lot easier if we do head over, hit Pinal and go up? The type of materials that they're going to be hauling through there, or maybe things we don't want running through the neighborhoods.
Right. So they did provide a simple statement with this route when I asked, and so they get permission from Federal Department of Transportation and state regulations govern the transportation of their waste.
Okay, so there is,
that
there's
route-
something
that
set in
route
place
is the
so
route,
that
yeah.
give guidelines for that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yes, Member Peters.
Has there been any voices of concern from any of the food manufacturing plants nearby, like Daisy Brand or Franklin Foods, or?
We did not receive any other comments in regards to this proposal,
Okay.
other than what I mentioned earlier.
Member Snyder.
As a follow-up to Commissioner Peters' question, Mr. Horn, were those, because of the distance from this site to those food processing sites, were they contacted?
No, they fell outside the 300 feet.
There's an answer. They may or may not have been aware.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? No? All right. At this time, then, I would like to invite the applicant and/or their representative. Please come forward.
Good evening. My name's Michael Freeze. I'm the architect on the project and was the applicant for the owner. I happen to actually have the owner from Boston is listening in. We do things different now with COVID-19, obviously.
Sure.
My address is 15974 North 77th Street, Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'm the principal architect and owner of FM Group, which was the design lead on this, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. So I believe there were some questions, I don't know if you know, in regards to trucking.
Yes, the type of vehicles coming in and out, this actually does have a railroad spur that is being added to the line that goes around the west and the north side of the property. That's for material going away in enclosed tankers. The product will be coming in through a variety of size trucks, both semi and panel trucks, depending on where they're coming from. Most of the traffic's going to be coming from interstate, Phoenix, Tucson, other cities besides Casa Grande, because this will be one of the options for waste. The first phase is non-hazard, which is more of a typical transfer station that you would see in the city of Phoenix, because products brought in, it's, you know, bundled up into larger containers to go out to go to the waste sites here in the state. Then where the regulated medical waste is actually phase 2, but part of that process is a recycling activity where they take a lot of the plastic containers for medicine and for medical type products, and that will be then used as a recycling, and then that plastic will be dealt with and sent to the recycling plants that need it. And then that expansion will become biomedical, which is then stuff will be cleaned, but that has to get approved through ADQ prior. But the recycling part can be built without that because there's nothing coming through yet with that. And then the hazardous waste will be a number of different kinds of products that fall under the categories of hazardous waste, both solids and liquids. They'll be regulated, they have to be stored a certain way, and then they go through with thermal recycling process, which is on the north side of the building. Both the hazardous and regulated medical waste will be in enclosed facilities. They have to be done for ADQ purposes, how it's stored, how it's processed. Everything else, the non-hazard, is basically a big shed that has a elevation facing the road to look like a building. The rest of it is just basically a sunshade because you've got 2 front-end loaders working inside, basically to keep them out of the sun.
Member Snyder.
Thank you. As a follow-up, sir, two questions. First of all, you said most of the incoming product is going to be coming from other cities, and you mentioned cities in the Phoenix area. Knowing the interstate system, one presumes then that that traffic is going to be coming on I-10.
Down to 8 and up.
So they would go all the way to the I-8, I-10 interchange and come in through 8 and north on Thornton?
Both the client and I looked at the kind of streets that go east and west in this part of your city. There's really no direct connection over to 10. You have to get off, get on an angled road, then make another turn, then make another turn. It'll be just easier for them to just tell people, go to this exit on 8, get off, drive north, come right in.
Okay, then
It's just cleaner.
Let me offer compliments to our planning staff for having done that in advance. So we don't have that traffic coming through the middle of town. But secondly, could you talk to speak to the frequency? I mean, how, and I understand that this, once this is, it's a build-up.
Right.
Sort of
It's gonna
scenario,
grow,
but-
yeah. As they get more clients and stuff like that, it's typically like most major waste sites, it's gonna be a 24/7 type facility. It's going to be secure. There's gonna be trucks coming in and out at different times, you know, backing up the buildings and loading. It's why it's in an industrial park. Nowhere near neighborhoods, nowhere near schools. This is, you know, it's going to be a regular kind of frequent process. There's not gonna be a heavy load of trucks. It's not like where you see in the morning at a plant where they have to pick stuff up, where you see 12 trucks waiting at 7 o'clock to get through the gate. This is just gonna be kind of a regular and frequent kind of activity.
I'm thinking more of the traffic that goes to the Walmart distribution center, for example.
Could be, yeah,
That's-
similar to that where.
It's
you know,
fairly heavy traffic.
It's not that big a plant. We only have trailer parking for 20. We're not talking that much, you know, because loads of this kind of product are gonna be barreled type loads. They're gonna be offloaded with forklifts into the building. Truck will be there 6, 7 hours. You know, we're not talking about stuff rotating fast like, you know, I just did Sprouts warehouse in, and I had to have, literally, I had to have enough of 20 trucks waiting to get into the property because of how fast they turn over fresh produce. It's not this kind of activity.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Member McBride?
You glanced over something very quickly, in my opinion.
Sure.
Various types of hazardous waste as listed. It's like, that scares the hell out of me. Because, I mean, I know hazardous waste can be a plastic bottle, but I also know what hazardous waste can be on the other end.
Yes.
What grades of hazardous waste do you do?
Everything will be regulated by ADQ. They have to put through their process of how much waste and what kind of waste. ADQ has to analyze it. That will be done over once they own the property, that will be done over the next 3 to 4 to 6 months, depending on how long that will take. I can't speak to the actual quantities and the types. I'm an architect, I'm not a scientist.
So you're
So,
asking
but there was a listing, there was a summary. Joe, is there any chance you could bring that up, the summary that the client provided for?
Narrative?
Yeah,
The narrative, list.
for the hazard, yeah.
I don't think I have the one that, if it declared what the type of waste is, it says hazardous waste container storage, designated hazardous waste building will be at a volume equivalent to approximately 5,000 55-gallon drums. Waste processing operations will include treatment via neutralization, stabilization, fuel blending, chemical oxidation, thermal solvent recycling, and then all processing and storage areas will be provided with secondary containment and emergency protection in accordance with ADEQ and the EPA for hazardous waste regulations. But you might want to check on the phone with Triumvirate directly if they know exactly what it would be.
Mike, can you hear that question on actually the type of products in the hazard?
It's probably easier, Mike, to exclude the materials that we wouldn't be accepting, such as radioactives, biological waste in the hazardous building, explosives, none of that material. So it's mostly flammable materials, corrosives, and toxic materials, and a fair amount of it is actually non-hazardous.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I heard that. I just,
You're just making sure?
Yeah, I heard it all.
You were digesting it, right?
And the follow-up to that is, you know, you're asking us to approve something that's going to happen in the future. I know that you can't predict exactly what's gonna be in there. But, you know, I don't have children that live in the area. I know many people that do. And I know that hazardous chemical plants, things can happen. And it just scares hell out of me that we don't know right now what's gonna go in there, other than take my word for it, it's not gonna be bad. That's, you know, if I had a list of things that I knew would go in there, it would make a big difference in my decisions. But to not know what's gonna go in that plant, it really scares me. It really, really does.
Do you want to repeat again?
I heard everything he said.
Okay, okay.
I heard everything he said, but that just excluded a few things, and there's many, many other things that could go in there with the exclusion. I wouldn't expect radioactive waste to go into here.
Realize that that has to be done through ADQ first.
But they approve a lot of things that I wouldn't want in my backyard. They really do.
Understood. We're not, this is an industrial park for a reason, though. Just, you know, it's not
I
a
know it is.
residential, you know.
And I realize that it's an industrial park that's taking in materials that aren't coming out of our community. There may be something small going there, but we're just asked to be in somebody else's dump.
Question.
What it comes down to.
Kind of to piggyback on that, you guys bring this stuff in, you process it, you, in a sense, somewhat recycle it, right? To extent, I think is what you mentioned for at least phase 2, it goes into recycling products, whether that is cleansing them and then shipping them out to be either reused or melted down into something else, or whatever it may be.
Or disposed at the correct location
So,
through manifest. Yep.
Is the material that comes in from other places, is it then leaving to go to other places, or is that stuff going into our landfill?
Did you hear that question? Well,
I think so. So the material's coming in smaller containers, like Mike said, drums and pails and totes. We're bulking the material and treating it so that we can ship it outbound to cement kilns that use solvents for fuel, or to permitted landfills elsewhere in the state or elsewhere in the country that are permitted to receive hazardous materials. There's nothing that's going to be disposed of at the site. We're not putting anything industrial waste. There's no industrial wastewater discharge to the city sewer system. There's no on-site landfills being proposed.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
Truly, it's a processing.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
done state of the art, following all the requirements.
You're just bringing it in and sending it out. Your goal is
the right way versus a lot of stuff's done the wrong way.
So for clarification, the Casa Grande landfill is not permitted to dispose of hazardous waste. So it will not be going to the Casa Grande landfill.
Chairman?
Yeah, Member Dugan.
So is any of these products coming from the East Coast or just local neighboring states? I see you've got the train site. Could you have products coming from all over the United States?
No, this would be a regional. They have operations in a number of states back east. They're just expanding, doing business in other states. Phoenix was picked as one of those locations.
After you process it here, it is no longer hazardous?
Not all of it. Some of it is still hazard. It's just been bulked into a better way of getting it to the next place for either its final rusting, or as he said, like sending them to a concrete plant where they need it as part of their process because they need solvents.
So you got the train right there. So are you bringing in old oil that's coming out of cars and all that stuff? Is that waste oil and all that stuff coming out and putting through this plant?
Yes.
And is that explosive? I would assume it would be.
A certain quantity, yes.
No, oil, not explosive.
Okay.
Oil's not explosive.
Oil is not explosive.
How about gasoline products?
Not flammable, not explosive.
Flammable.
Okay.
Flammable.
So to have an explosion here, it was probably almost nil to none, what you're saying?
Yes. You couldn't see his head shaking.
You shake the phone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And realize when we do the phase 2 work, which has this hazard, as the architect, working with staff reviewing my documents and my engineering team that does this, we have to follow all the requirements both ADQ has for the amount of storage, how it is stored, how it's processed, and we also have to follow the International Building Code, International Fire Code. So a lot of these things will put things in place. There'll be limits to how big rooms will be, which will then limit quantities for all the concerns that you have.
So if you do have an explosion in there, that explosion will be contained in the building.
Correct. A lot of the second building will be done with masonry, so that it has more of an explosion-proof type characteristic to the system. It will also have sprinkler systems that are not normal. They'll be able to put a lot of water in a hurry. And if we have to, we'll put a pump on that so that the water flow in this area will be, supplemented with a pump. The other thing is some of this product can't get water on it, so we'll have a special system like you would do in a data center, where you take the oxygen out of the air.
Is there facilities like this in metropolitan Phoenix?
Yes.
A bunch of them.
There's a competition here.
There is competition.
There's competition.
How many?
So, you have any idea how many?
What would you say competition in the Phoenix market? 3 or 4?
Yeah.
I'm aware of 3 because I also do asbestos and environmental as part of my firm.
And have you, because you've been in this business, have you seen any of them explode or have hazardous problems or had major problems at those?
I've been here since '86, and I'm not aware of any. I'm not saying there hasn't been, but as myself, since '86, I don't remember of any of this type of facility.
Okay.
But I can't confirm that, my knowledge.
Yeah. Remember, Benedict, did you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions, much more mundane than what.
Please. It's your turn then. You got the floor.
First of all, can you tell us how many trips per day were on said we had a
Traffic statement.
transportation?
Hey, Dwayne, do you have that at hand?
No, I don't. I know it was less than 100 a day, or 100 an hour.
Correct.
Because that would have triggered the full TIA. And I believe we looked up a traffic impact statement on this project.
Yeah, it was small enough not to generate a TIA.
So was that 100 an hour or 100 a day, just for us?
Just for peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
It was 100 a day, not an hour.
And that'll include any, but that include any employee.
Come on.
Yeah, and realize we're talking different size trucks. We're talking panel trucks, vans, versus, big semis that you would see like at a typical warehouse type thing.
2 more questions. Do you have an idea of how many employees will be at these plants?
What's
Phase
your
1, phase 1 and
employment
phase 2?
expectation? Number of people starting off initially?
Probably around 20 with the first phase, probably ramping up to 50 to 75 at full operation.
Realize we have an office here, which is going to be their main hub as they grow. So that's a 7,000 square foot. There's probably parking there. There's going to be 20 people in the office, and then 2 or 3 in each of the buildings. And then as they go bigger, as he said, there's probably going to be shifts. So they're talking 50 to 75. We have full parking around all the buildings as the phases grow out.
So 50 to 70 for the whole thing.
Right.
When do you expect to open, I guess, phase 2?
ADQ process is first. Once they go through that, with COVID-19, what are you thinking, Mike? A year to get through ADQ?
Yeah, we're probably somewhere in the 9 months to a year.
To get phase 2?
To get it approved through ADQ. Once it's approved through ADQ, then I can do drawings, go through the process. The build out, you're probably 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Member Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a question about storage. How long would you anticipate materials to be stored before before being shipped back out?
At your other plants, what's your turnover?
Most materials are a matter of a couple days. By permit, would be allowed to store for up to 365 days.
But
most material, we're not in the business of long-term storage. It's about bulking the material and moving it out to its final destination.
He says on an average, it's about a week.
Okay.
But they will be allowed by permitting purposes through ADQ. You can store the same material for up to a year before it can go away.
And that is the non-hazardous, or does that include the hazardous waste?
That's all waste, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's all waste.
Okay, thank you.
As you well know, they're not only gonna make money if they move it.
If they can move.
To their, it's to their, it's
If they
to
can't
their-
find another happy home for it, it'll
Yeah.
stay there.
Yeah, unfortunately, as our cities are all growing, that's not gonna be a problem.
Any other questions for the applicant? Member Dugan.
Yeah, where's the owner based in? You said New York?
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
I want to know this. You're coming from Boston and putting this facility in there. We always like the businesses to get involved in the community. Hey, you have any interest at all with 20, 50 people to get interested in our community and get involved with it, and so you can help us with problems later on down the road?
You wanna be the expert for them in hazardous waste?
Yeah, I mean, as the community is growing, I mean, companies like Lucid need our services, and the nearest service for them is probably an hour or 2 hours away. Obviously,
I'll get you involved when he gets out here, so.
Yeah, you just gotta be gentle on him, because I already ruffled his feathers today bringing up the Patriots. So you just gotta be careful, don't bring up football right now.
Waiting for you to finish counting ballots.
Okay, bring it back on track to
We're
planning and
digressing.
zoning items, agenda items here. Do we have any other questions for the applicant?
Nope.
No?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and for also having him on the call. That was very informative. So at this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody here like to speak to this agenda item? That means you all have been waiting patiently for another agenda item, so I applaud you for that. So
That's okay. I could have sanitized myself. That's right, we got you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening again, John McGuire, 1748 North St. Francis Place. First of all, I would like to say thank you for the people who are here today. I just want to clarify one thing. I got a little bit confused here. While I completely appreciate their intent to use I-8 and Thornton, part of me heard that there was an FMSLA or Federal Motor Transport requirement due to the materials they're transporting, that they have to do that. Is that true, or this was, I'm just concerned with Mr. McBride's or Snyder's question that they intend to do this but may not do that. That is one of the big concerns I'm hearing from the people I talk to. They do not want this material going down Pinal. So there's a difference between intent and require, as we, in the last issue, went through. So if the applicant can answer that afterwards, that would be great. Otherwise, I think you guys asked, the commission asked most of the questions that I had. I'm, of course, overall personally in support of this, especially now that you've asked some of these questions. I trust, that might be naive of me, the ADEQ and EPA requirements as to what can go through their size facility. I'm not an expert in it at all, so I'm assuming they are, and they know that at a 25,000 square foot building, only certain materials and certain amounts of materials can go through this processing facility of this size in this type of neighborhood. They take all those things into account. Again, that might be a little bit of naivete on my part, but I'm in support of the need, as I said, Lucid's gonna be generating some of this material. I would like it to go 25 feet and out on a train than be transported otherwise. And there's gonna be lots of other companies coming to the Commerce Park, right across the street from this facility. You approved recently the Cactus Asphalt, or the Wright Asphalt facility. They're already grading and building. So they're gonna have materials coming out that these guys could dispose of for them. So there's a lot of things that this could solve and help, as well as the 75 jobs. And activity generates activity, and I'm hoping this helps that whole neighborhood generate more manufacturing activity. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Excuse me.
Oh, you want your question answered? Okay, well, just wait. Be patient. Yes, Mr. Benedict?
Can you clarify his question, Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and pass that to the applicant just to clarify. This is what I was provided that's on the screen, is that the federal DOT and state regulations govern it. So,
Yeah,
but
I
I'll let
think
him confirm
I think
that.
what everybody's interested in, of course, is how stringent of a requirement that is.
It's of the ease of traffic to and from the interstates, because we're not gonna be getting a lot of loads coming in from your city and residential area. They're gonna be coming down 10 and 8, and as Mike and I looked at the routing, it makes so sense to have everybody come through the north side or the town, like I came. It makes sense to come down and stay on the freeway and get off the straightest shot through, especially since that road's going to be improved.
So, I think that the biggest issue
Right.
for us being residents and knowing, we all believe what you just said, but other industry has proven to us that they love driving right through the middle of our town.
Understood.
And so that's, I think, where it becomes more of people questioning, is this mandated, or is this just a hopeful, this is what we think they should do?
Right.
Because plenty of vehicles come from Phoenix and go right through town rather than going to 10 and 8.
I completely understand your concerns. I just don't know how, as part of this use permit, that issue can be mandated.
Right, there's no way to regulate it because you
yeah.
won't know where they came from.
Right.
They just pulled into your facility.
Right. And the same thing with Mike. He's going to tell everyone, this is the route I want you to take.
Right.
Will there be times someone doesn't follow his direction? We all know yes.
Just get Google Maps to update.
The intention is, this is the clean route.
That's right. Not available.
Yeah, this is the clean route. To answer the second question, which was a very good question, just so, and city staff knows this, but part of once you get occupancy in this building and the type of building this is, the fire department, the fire chief, the inspector will be doing on a regular basis inspections to a facility like this to know how much is being stored and is Mike keeping everything following protocol. They'll do much more constant inspections, and that's how stuff like this is caught.
Great, thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, to clarify, is that our chief? Is that our fire department?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You know, if we can build a truck route around the city, we could build a hazardous material route too.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll do that right after the improvements all the way to
Exactly.
Thornton. All those tax dollars Benedict's excited about coming in. Commission, what do you got? You got any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve conditional use permit number DSA-20-00-143 with all the staff recommendations. 1.6, 1.6, yeah. With all staff recommendations.
You including the associated resolution?
Is that in there too?
Yeah.
And also with the
associated resolution.
Associated revolutions.
All right.
Revolutions.
Associated resolution. All right, so I have a motion.
A second.
In a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Will you please call the roll?
Yes.
No. Benedict.
With much hopes that the regulations will be followed and in goodwill, I'll vote yes.
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 Member Snyder. Member Snyder first.
Oh, Snyder. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Snyder.
It's okay.
Sorry. And
You only
Vice-
get one vote, Mike.
Vice Chairman McBride.
Wait, it's still Member Snyder. He hasn't voted.
I haven't
Oh,
voted.
I'm sorry.
He was saying yes to, it was okay that you
I
had skipped him,
thought
not to the vote.
I apologize.
Hey, welcome, by the way. Mr. Peters, just welcome to.
I feel like I'm always providing the comedic relief here.
Somebody's got to do it.
I'll reluctantly vote aye. I have doubts, but if for this part, I'll go with it. I vote aye.
Okay. Vice Chairman McBride.
I'm going to have to vote kind of with emotion on part of this. For lack of belief on something that everyone else wants to believe in, I have a fear that it's not going to come to the greatest end, and I'm going to vote no.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. Motion approved. And we have a second item with this, which would be the major site plan, DSA 2000145.
I would like to make a motion to pass DSA 20-00145 with following conditions by staff.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, let's call the roll.
Member Peters.
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Aye.
Member Strata.
Yes.
Member Dugan.
Yes.
Member Snyder.
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride.
No.
And Chairman Miller.
Yes. Motion passed. Congratulations. Thank you guys for being here. Good luck on your next steps. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Next up, public hearing and consideration request by Hillstone Homes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to take a 10-minute break.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right. We're going to take a 10-minute little break. So thank you guys for your patience this evening.
I figured that's where you were going.
bring this bad boy back into order. Oh. Did Dwayne just leave us? All right. Public hearing and consideration request by Hillstone Homes. Housing product, DSA 2000166, and conditional use permit, DSA 2000167 for model home complex and sales office.
All right, so Hillstone Homes is a brand-new home builder to the Casa Grande area, and they're proposing 2 applications this evening in a subdivision that's been around for a while, but it's also seeing brand-new civil improvements being done and bringing that approved subdivision into fruition.
Nice.
So the location of the proposed housing product and model home complex is in the western portion of the Arroyo Grande PAD and subdivision. Hillstone has acquired 78 lots from Scott Communities within the Phase 1 area of Arroyo Grande. In this area, the typical lot sizes are 55 feet wide, and they're about 7,000, they're starting at 7,000 square feet in size. In addition to their proposed housing product, which I'll discuss on the upcoming slides, they're also planning a model home complex, as identified on the screen. Hillstone Homes has proposed 5 different floor plans for their housing product. 3 of those plans are single-story. The remainder are 2-story. There's 3 elevations per plan, 15 color schemes, and the square footage will range from just over 1,500 square feet to just shy of 2,900 square feet. They're introducing both 35-foot wide and 40-foot wide plans. Their model home complex is comprised of 2 homes. One will have a sales office with an off-street parking area. When reviewing housing product, we have to consider both the Arroyo Grande Planned Area Development Zone District design standards that are embedded within that PAD guide, and then also the 1999 version of the residential design standards for planned area developments. The staff report goes into that overview more so, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'm just going to talk about 5 of these items, and I'm totally joking.
My eyes got big. I was like, you're going to go through 5.
Living dangerously, aren't you?
No.
I'm going to talk about 6 of them.
I know where you live.
The Arroyo Grande PAD and the 1999 design standards basically talks about 2 things. Elevation and roofs, and all of those criteria have been met. They're addressing what they need to address for that criteria. And the second aspect of the 1999 design standards is that there's an additional portion where they have to meet 4 of 6 additional standards. And it's been determined that they're meeting 5 of the 6. So as far as the housing product portion of the request this evening, there's 3 conditions associated with the recommendation. It's just essentially to help ensure that planning staff can make sure that the plot plans comply with the standards by providing particular detail on the plans. And then also, since Arroyo Grande is currently being developed with the civil improvements, there's just a reminder that prior to any building permits beyond foundation, adequate access and water supply as determined by the fire department must be in place, and that is coming along quite smoothly, apparently. So as far as the model home complex application, they're going to be showcasing 2 of their 5 houses. One is a 2,800 square foot house, and that's where the sales office will be located in lieu of the garage, and the other one is a 2,200 square foot home that will basically function as a show home with the off-street parking lot located on the corner. There's review criteria that have to be met associated with the conditional use permit. The final criteria is the one that generates conditions of approval. And they're basically just standard conditions that are associated with most model home complexes, primarily to ensure that at the end of its life that any sort of improvements that are made for it to be a model home complex are restored back so that the homes can function as single-family residences. As far as the public notification process is concerned, there was not a sign posted because there are currently no residences in that neighborhood. So it really would not have served a purpose to have a sign posting. It's not required. But there was notification sent out to owners of property within 300 feet, and there was publication in the Casa Grande Dispatch. There were no comments received. Staff does recommend that Commission approve the housing project subject to the conditions within the staff report. And staff also recommends that Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and its associated resolution for the model home complex. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Member Benedict.
So, and this relates to some of the others that we're gonna hear also. The conditions of approval in several of the others had this verbiage, and I think we talked about it before, about the landscaping being in place 30 days after, and I don't see that on this one. Am I missing it? What am I doing?
We could certainly add that. That's a good catch, Commissioner Benedict. I think primarily because since it's a new subdivision and there isn't as where my mind was going at it with is the landscaping is going to be probably a more of a definite thing because it's a brand new subdivision, but we can certainly add that condition.
Would you describe again to me how that does not require more activity from planning department? You guys have got a lot of stuff going on. How do you not go back and check 30 days later?
Paul, do you want me to take that, or do you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So right now there's about 100 single-family homes being constructed a month. And so, about 30 to 60 days after that permit's been approved, we're out doing inspections.
Okay.
So when we're doing an inspection, we don't necessarily have to check for landscaping at that time because within a short amount of time later, we're back in the neighborhood doing another round of inspections. So we're able to keep an eye on the front yard landscaping of the homes we approved 30 days earlier.
So you're already out there.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions? Thank you. All right then, at this time, applicant and/or a representative? Seeing none. I'll go ahead and shut that down. Open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to come and speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the housing product subject to on housing product DSA 2000166 and subject to the following conditions as put forth by staff.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You waiting for me to say, you're gonna add that?
I was, because I saw you start thinking, but I don't know that it's.
Well, I don't know, I wasn't sure whether Jim's explanation was that he didn't need it or not, so.
I don't know that he does need it, but it's entirely up to us. Do you need the landscape verbiage in there?
My thought, to be honest with you, is it wouldn't hurt. to be consistent for one, and for two, so that it's clear how that landscaping issue is addressed.
Like your,
So it could be taken care of by Mr.
so would
Snyder,
you,
I would amend the motion. I will accept a friendly amendment to the motion to include that. If the seconder agrees.
okay, we're gonna go back into legal here to discuss the, well, and not that I need legal counsel right now, but from a comment that he made earlier, we need to be very clear on the verbiage used.
Okay.
So
it's-
why don't we ask James to, oh, you have one? You
Yeah,
can-
it's
Go ahead.
number 2 on the
Perfect.
KB home.
All right.
Can you read that into the record?
Read it. Landscaping to be installed by builder and maintained by homeowner per the provided landscaping packages shall be in place within 30 days of certificate of occupancy for the home.
So we have an,
It's
you'd like to
included in the
amend your
motion.
motion to include that verbiage.
That's correct.
Do you hear a second on that? We have a second on that?
Well, he's amending it, so you're gonna second it?
Yeah, I'll second.
Yeah, all right, so we're on that. We're on that. So now we're voting on the amendment. Or it's amended because he was the original motion maker and has
Correct.
amended it, so we're good to move forward with the final vote.
Mark, you okay with just one vote because they withdrew the original motion?
Right, yeah, it's a friendly amendment, so we're good. Just,
Cool.
you can vote on the motion as is.
Just making sure. All right. Now that we
Yeah,
got
no
that
problem.
handled. You guys just had this wonderful in-depth look at how all this is coming together tonight with a lot of different agenda items. Would you go ahead and call the roll for us?
Yes.
Member Benedict?
Yes.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right.
Now we gotta
I'd like to make a motion.
Gotta make,
Yep.
we already made the motion.
No, we got another one though, because we got a conditional use permit for the house, or for the,
No, but we didn't vote on the conditional,
yeah, we did, because we didn't have to,
do the amendment.
the amendment was a friendly one because you guys withdrew your initial and then motioned and
got it.
seconded. Okay,
For me.
you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve conditional use permit DSA 20-00167 for the Hillstorm Mobile Home Complex, or Model Home Complex. I get Model Home Complex, not mobile, and the associated resolutions.
Second.
We're gonna include the specific conditions listed in your staff report as well in that motion.
He said.
And associated resolutions, subject to the following, or listed specific conditions.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
Second.
And you second that. All right. Any discussion? We get a roll call?
Yes. Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Yes.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right, motion approved. Next, public hearing and consideration, requested by KB Homes for a housing product, DSA 2000162. We don't want to protect nothing around here.
Tax strikes again.
So KB Home was a home builder in the Casa Grande area a number of years ago, and obviously they're a nationwide builder, but they have returned to the Casa Grande market with an introduction of some homes within McCartney Center. And the areas that they're looking to construct within McCartney Center are within area EE, just on the east side of Peart Road, south of Frontier, and AA on the south side of Frontier, west of Tucker. They've acquired 80 lots, 59 are within parcel AA, which are smaller size lots. The minimum lot size there is about 5,500 square feet, and then the 21 remaining lots within parcel EE, and those are larger lots. The minimum lot size there is about 8,000 square feet. So there's 5 plans proposed by, excuse me, there's a typo. There's 8 single-story floor plans introduced by KEB. There's 3 elevations per plan: Spanish, Southern Italian, and Tuscan, and 9 color schemes. The square footage range is between 1,300 square feet and 2,300 square feet. One of the things that is really interesting with this housing product submittal, and likely it's because they are building in 2 areas, one with wider lots than the other, is they're proposing a variety of home widths, which you don't normally see with the production builder. It's usually part of a series where they're all the same width. So one home is 32 foot wide, which probably would be best accomplished in the area AA where there's smaller lots. But one home is 48 feet wide, 3 or 50 feet wide, and 3 or 35 feet wide. They are introducing a variety of different color schemes that's to match the appropriate elevations. And when reviewing housing product, it's subject to both that respective PAD. So in this case, it's subject to the McCartney Center PAD, which has certain nuances to it. For example, the primary color scheme can't exceed a light reflectivity value of 50%. And so the little subtle characteristics such as that, but then it's also subject to the 1999 version of the residential design standard for planned area developments. So it's very similar to the last housing product we talked about from Hillstone. It's subject primarily to elevation and roofs, which the staff report covers and staff feels have been addressed. And it also talks about additional requirements where 4 of 6 requirements have to be met. Staff feels that they're meeting 5 of the 6. As far as the public notification process goes, there was a sign posted abutting parcel AA and a sign abutting parcel EE. And there was also mailed notifications sent out to owners of property within 200 feet, including the McCartney Center HOA, and publication in the dispatch. There were no comments that I received. However, there may be members of the public tonight here in response to the public notification efforts to comment. Staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the housing product for parcels AA and EE, subject to these 3 conditions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gagliardi, would you clarify for me how many homes are anticipated to be 32 foot wide?
1.
Just 1?
Correct. And then there's 3 35-foot wide homes.
I have a closet bigger than that. Thank you.
Must be nice.
Wow.
Yeah. Married life. Wonderful.
Any other questions for staff?
No.
All right. Is there an applicant and or a representative like to come forward? Thank you for being here this evening.
My name is Jesse Dodgen. I'm a senior purchasing agent with KB Home. We're at 10429 South 51st Street, Suite 100 in Phoenix.
All right.
We're excited to get started out there. We are going to be doing the smaller homes in the AA parcel and the larger homes in the EE parcel, so it is going to be split up a little bit. And if there's any questions, I'll try and answer them the best I can.
Cool. Member Dugan.
What's the price range? Do you get them under 250,000, the little ones, or do you go above that?
We haven't determined that yet. It really determines, it's determined at a later date after we've bid everything out and gotten everything under contract. We have our sales staff gets involved in that, and they meet really close to when they're going to open the project to come up with those prices. It will be competitive. These are, especially in parcel AA with them being smaller homes, they're going to be a competitive, it's going to be available for a large demographic, so.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Yeah, Member McBride.
I have a question. I'm not real familiar with the area. I've driven through it, but I don't recall the homes. Now, are the homes that you're planning to build similar in some type to the homes that are existing there?
I do not know. I haven't been through there. I was going to drive through on my way here, and it was getting dark, and my exit was closed, so it took me a little longer to get here than expected. So I could get that information for you, but I don't know personally.
Thank you.
I can probably answer that for you, since I used to live in this neighborhood. In AA, almost all of those homes in AA have recently been constructed by Brown Homes. They're very similar to the ones that KB is proposing. EE were built back in the 2004, 2005, 2006 timeframe. Some of them are two-story and maybe range a little larger than the ones at KB, but pretty close, pretty close.
Thank you.
Assume width-wise, similar to Villago, right? Are we filling in any of those lots that are?
Actually, these are wider than the K. Havonian homes in Villago. These are wider than
Right,
those.
to help fill that lot space.
Yes, they'll look get more in proportional to the
Yeah,
lot.
perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Came up here and we asked a bunch of questions of staff, but no. Thanks for being here this evening. We appreciate you coming down and being a part of this and wanting to build more homes in Casa Grande.
All right, thank you.
So at this time, I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to come and speak to this agenda item? No? All right, I will close the public portion at this time and bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Commissioner, I'd like to make a motion to approve housing product DSA 20-00162 for McCartney Center parcels AA and EE with listed conditions.
Second.
Okay.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Let's see. Member Snyder?
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
And Chairman Miller?
Yes. All right. Motion approved. All right. Next up, public hearing and consideration of request by Richmond American Homes for housing product DSA 20-00151.
A point of clarification, Chairman Miller, it's for a model home complex, not housing product.
Oh, my agenda says housing product.
Well, we're on item number 4. I think 5 is the housing.
Oh, I skipped one, sorry. My fault. You are correct.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, I was just trying to get us closer to the end, guys.
It's item number DSA 20-00164.
164, yep. I jumped. I went from 4 to 5 already.
Right.
All right, so we are on 4, public hearing and consideration request by Richmond.
So this request also is within the McCartney Center. It pertains to lots, however, on the north side of Frontier Street. A few months back, Richmond was in front of you with a request for housing product to construct houses within parcel G, G, H, H, and BB. And this evening, they are in front of you with a request for a model home complex. The proposal is to build a model home complex within parcel GG. located at the northwest corner of Presidio Avenue, with a very unique spelling, by the way. I haven't ever seen it spelled the way it is, and Brandon Drive. It's a 3-lot complex where the corner lot will be a off-street parking area. And then one of the homes will feature a sales office, and then the home on the end will basically be a show home, but they are utilizing a third car garage option for the house. The home with the sales office is one of their RV garage models, which has shown to be a popular home style within the Casa Grande area. Brown Homes is constructing that in the Los Portales neighborhood. And then the home on the furthest western edge will be a 3-car garage option for plan number P920. When reviewing conditional use permit criteria, it has to meet specific criteria that was evaluated within your staff report per city code. Primarily with conditional use permits for model home complexes, the primary condition that we're most concerned about is that which is necessary to protect public health, safety, and general welfare. And they're fairly standard with model home complexes. As I was talking about with Hillstone Homes' CUP request, primarily it has to deal with reverting the homes back to a functioning single-family residence at the model home complex's expiration. As far as the public notification process goes, it did meet all of the requirements. But there were no inquiries received to me. However, there may be public here to speak to this item. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve this conditional use permit and its associated resolution, subject to these conditions. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or comments. Or take any comments, rather.
Questions for staff? Comments for staff? All right. Then at this time, would an applicant and/or a representative like to come forward? Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
My name's Jake Nickel. I live at 18220 North 68th Street, Unit 107 in Phoenix, AZ 85054. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Just a few things on this one. We're excited about the McCartney Home model complex. We did decide to do the RV garage here. We found that the plan itself can be somewhat imposing if you're just viewing it on a rendering or on a sheet of paper. And we found that specifically in City of Maricopa, when we've actually built the plan, people come to see the model. If they have any apprehensions towards that home, it flips it right away when they see how the garages work and the home flows. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to specifically do an RV home as a garage. The other thing is that we want to have an RV home in Casa Grande for people to come and see it in person. We've had models constructed out in West Phoenix and other places in Phoenix. So we want to have a place where people can come in the Casa Grande area and not have to drive an hour or two to see the actual RV home itself. But other than that, I'm happy to answer questions you guys got.
No. All right. Well, thanks for coming down here.
Yep, you got it.
Talking us through that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
At this time, then I'll open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I'll move to approve conditional use permit for the model home complex in Carson, parcel BG, ESA 2000164. Have I got the right one?
Yeah.
Okay. And its associated resolution, subject to the conditions as in the report.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, let's call the roll.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Strader,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Member Snyder,
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride,
Yes.
and Chairman Miller.
Yes. Motion approved. Congrats. All right, now, public hearing in consideration, request by Richmond American Homes for a housing product, DSA 20000151. You guys finally caught up to me now. Is that what it is?
This is like deja vu.
It's like deja vu, that's it. I feel like we've been here before.
All over again.
All right.
So this is another request by Richmond American Homes, but for a grouping of lots within Cottonwood Ranch, known as Parcel F. They are requesting approval for housing product, which includes 5 different home plans are being proposed, each with 3 elevations. Parcel F has 96 vacant lots. The minimum lot size here is about 7,200 square feet, 18 color schemes, and the homes range in size from just shy of 1,600 square feet to just below 2,100 square feet. All of the 5 floor plans proposed within this parcel are 35 feet wide. Here's just a brief little snippet of the color schemes proposed. I realize it's kind of hard to digest on the screen, but the point of this is just to show you the wide variety of color schemes and combinations. All will have, of course, concrete tile roofs with different roof tile designs. The Cottonwood Ranch PAD is also subject to the 1999 version of the residential design standards, and also the Cottonwood Ranch PAD design requirements were more restrictive. Staff found that the review of the 1999 standards have been met in terms of the elevation and roofs portion, and then the second portion is 4 of 6 additional requirements have to be met. Staff did find that they did meet 4 out of 6. Other matters, however, pertain to the fact that, when this plat was approved and the original developer made the street improvements, and there were some homes constructed within Parcel F, about probably 15 years ago, there were some incomplete improvements that now have to be made within the tracts associated with the parcel, within the open space and drainage tracts. And I highlighted that in the primary tracts there in green. However, there's some between the lots and the streets, like along Westfall, etc. There's missing DG and landscaping. As you can see in the photos, this is along Pueblo Drive. There's no DG, there's no trees in this area, just south of Veckel. And then along Westfall, as you see in the bottom picture, there's supposed to be just a little path that ties back into the sidewalk that's missing. And so just some improvements that had not yet been made. There's the retention basin at O'Neill that would obviously need to be cleaned up, some new DG and landscaping. And then this is the landscape or the drainage retention area between Silver Reef and Johns, which compared to the final landscape plan, as you can tell, is missing vegetation. So in order to accomplish that, one of the conditions, recommended conditions, is that these improvements be either made or financially secured prior to C of O of the homes. As far as the public notification process goes, we followed that which city code requires. There was a sign posting and mailing went out to the HOA and owners of property within 200 feet of the lots. I don't know why it says days, there's a typo, I apologize, but there was also a sign posted on October 27th. I did not receive any comments. Staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the housing product for Richmond American Homes, subject to the conditions of approval within your staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Yeah, Member Benedict.
Was Richmond American amenable to those standards, to fixing the landscaping and walls, et cetera?
Commissioner Benedict, this was discussed with them, and it's somewhat standard practice for these parcels that had seen improvements a number of years ago and then sat what I call fallow after a period of time. So they are aware of it, but Richmond's representative is here, so he could discuss whether he's, or on behalf of Richmond, amenable to that condition.
And I believe we did the same thing on Cottonwood Ranch for D.R. Horton.
Correct.
In another section. So, any other questions for staff? No? All right. Thank you. At this time, applicant, like to come forward? Long time no see.
All right, so once again, Jake Nickel, 18220 North 68th Street, Unit 107, Phoenix, AZ, 85054. I just moved, so that's why I'm reading my address, so normally I do memorize where I live, so I just thought I'd clarify that for everybody. But for Cottonwood, we're extremely excited about this community. Just our main focus here is affordability, entry level, and we're looking to mirror our success that we've had in our first community, which was Tamaron down here in Casa Grande. We've done super well there with sales. So we're doing a very similar product lineup to the Tamaron community, and we hope to kind of continue that success moving forward. Another point that the team wanted me to make is also we're excited to kind of complete and fill out that area that's around, I believe it's Legacy Traditional School, I think that's right there. So there's kind of a bunch of empty lots that are around that school, so we're looking forward to, right, yeah. So we're really looking forward to kind of filling in that area, making it beautiful. Whether or not the kids actually go to school, I'm not sure if they do it online, but we're just excited to populate that area once again. And just to comment on your question, we do have all intentions of handling all of those improvements that James has noted. We have a horizontal team that goes through, they'll walk the site and they'll address everything that James had touched on, and even if we find additional items, we'll go ahead and take care of that. And we want it to be done well before C of O. We want the whole complex itself to look nice when people come in there, and it's hard to sell people a house when it looks pretty dumpy. So we want to get it cleaned up pretty quick.
Very good, thank you.
Yep. Great. Any other questions for the applicant? All right. Great. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
So at this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to come? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Thank you for being patient. You've been here for a very long time to get this moment as well, so.
Thank you, Chairman Miller, commissioners and staff. Thanks for being here so late. We're having too much fun. I want to say thank you to Richmond America for completing the Dust Bowl that is Cottonwood Ranch. That hardscape, sorry. My name's John Morton. I live at 1851 North Westfall Lane. It started off as a nice community that went flat. The hardscape was half-baked, was incomplete as staff indicated, and was very poorly taken care of. The HOA is pathetic because there are no members of the community that are on the HOA. So hopefully that's going to change. Point of concern, that school drops off and picks up their children from our community. Those kids cross that line, walking right past a sign that says no trespassing. your construction crew is going to have fun along that school. I can guarantee it. The city has been notified, staff has been told repeatedly, the police have been called. This is a safety situation where those children are concerned. Once those houses start to get built, it's going to probably be a problem. I can guarantee it. I've watched it. Why a kid hasn't been run over yet is beyond me. It really is a tragedy out there. Why or how that school got built without ample drop-off and pickup, I can't tell you. Wasn't here. Please take that to note.
Question for you, just for clarification. Are the kids going through the grass area out into the dirt lots?
They are walking across the parking lot on the west side of that school, across the dirt lots. There used to be a fence there that blocked them from doing that. It has been since taken down.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to clarify where, yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Appreciate it.
The traffic backs up that intersection at O'Neill and Pueblo. Traffic backs up way past that intersection on both sides, actually on all 3 points of that intersection. But yeah, the latest thing is that the kids are now being picked up in our community. And so they back up all the way clear back to Vehicle Street, around that curve. It's interesting to watch, to say the least. So I wanted to be here to let everybody be aware, especially Richmond, America. You got a challenge there. No joke, gentlemen. So that's all I had for this evening. Again, we're thankful because that is a dust bowl. All the people that live in that neighborhood that just redid their landscaping this year had it destroyed by dirt. We really love you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening. Would anybody else like to speak to this agenda item? All right, seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Commission?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve DSA 2000151, housing product for Richmond American Homes Parcel F, subject to the conditions offered in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Will you call the roll, please?
Sure. Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Yes.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. Motion approved. All right. Thank you guys for being here. You guys were here for a very long time, so thank you. Have a great evening.
At least it can see
All
how
right.
government works, right?
And last but not least, right? Public hearing and consideration, request by Costa Verde Homes, DSA 2000160.
So this is another housing product request brought to you by yet another new builder to the Casa Grande area, Costa Verde Homes. They have acquired some lots within the Mountain View Ranch Planned Area Development Zone District, specifically within a parcel known as B, C, and D. Now I have to tell you, I don't know why it was named that, because I don't know where B is supposed to be in relation to C and D, but the area highlighted in yellow describes the area in question. Costa Verde Homes has acquired 71 vacant lots within this parcel. The minimum lot width here is approximately 60 feet, and they're 7,000 square foot minimum lot sizes. They've proposed housing product approval of 5 homes, each with 3 elevations: Mission, Traditional, and Modern Ranch, 5 color schemes. And the home sizes here range just shy of 1,600 square feet to just over 2,000 square feet. And they're 44 feet in width. Here's just an excerpt of some of their color schemes and how it pairs up with the concrete roof tiles and stonework, which comes on some of the elevations. When reviewing housing product, it has to comply with the particulars of the PAD guide itself. And in this case, this is the first housing product this evening that is not subject to the 1999 version of the residential design standards, but rather the 2003 version. It's dependent upon when the particular PAD is approved. And so this one's a little bit different, but what's unique about the Mountain View Ranch PAD is there is a requirement that says lots bordering the Santa Rosa portion of the Mountain View Ranch PAD are limited to single story. And then with regard to the 2003 residential design standards, corner lots can only be single story homes. So there's some differences in terms of what staff reviews for when plot plans come in. We have to ensure that single story homes are built appropriately in the designated locations. There's the framework of the 2003 residential design standards is set up a little bit differently. There's a floor plans and elevations section, which staff has found that all of the bullet points within that section have been met. And the staff report covers it in a little bit more detail. Then there's a roofs section and a garages section. Specifically within the garage section, I just want to say it requires at least one floor plan to have a side load garage. They are meeting that. And they are meeting that which is covered in the roof section as well. And then there's a patio covers section, which they are meeting. And then there's a section regarding additions and modifications. So the Costa Verde Homes housing product does offer options for extended patios and tandem garages in lieu of a bedroom space. So in some cases, there will technically be a garage that can accommodate parking for 3 vehicles instead of 2. And then, unlike the 1999 standards where there's 6 requirements of which they have to meet 4, this has 8 requirements in which they have to meet 4. Staff found that they meet 5 of the 8 requirements. In terms of some other related matters associated with the housing product approval, this is also somewhat of a fallow subdivision. It was constructed by the developer, 15 or so years ago, maybe longer. And there were improvements that were starting to be made. If you look at that top photo, I don't know how clearly you can see it, but there were some lighting that was added along the west side. On the left side of the photo, there was lights. That was to illuminate a 10-foot sidewalk that was never installed. And of course, there's to be granite and landscaping per the approved landscape plan for this parcel that was just simply never completed. It basically is 3 areas: Tract C, Tract G, and Tract H, primarily along the west side of this parcel where the improvements were never fully completed. And so one of the conditions associated with this approval is that these improvements will either have to be installed per an approved landscape plan or financially secured prior to certificate of occupancy or the equivalent final inspection for the single-family residences. As far as the public notification process, there was a sign posted, and there was notice mailed out to owners of property within 200 feet. and also publication in the Casa Grande Dispatch. I did receive 2 inquiries. One resident was just simply inquiring about the cost of the homes, and I forwarded that email to the representative for Costa Verde to answer that question. And then there was another resident who was just basically wanting information about whether this was a public hearing and if they could attend remotely. And perhaps that resident is in attendance this evening or watching on television. Staff recommends that Planning Commission approve the housing product for Costa Verde homes within Mountain View Ranch, parcel B, C, and D, subject to these following conditions, which are more elaborated within the staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Any questions for staff? No? All right. Then at this time, an applicant and or their representative, please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Troy Flugel. I'm with Costa Verde Homes. We are excited to go into Mountain View Ranch. I would like to make one clarification, Jim. The square footage.
Yep.
You caught that? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
It's 2,900 and some odd feet other than
Right.
2,000, so it's closer to 3,000 square feet.
Which one's, which?
It's the plan for the 2989
Oh, yeah,
up
yeah.
there? Okay.
Gotcha. Awesome. Any questions for the applicant?
I just got one comment. All the home builders that come in here, these are the first big homes we saw. We never saw, most of them are from 1,500 to 1,800. You got some 2,900, 2,500s. That's, we need those here bad because there's
thank
no
you.
place. I want to thank you for bringing some big sized homes there because we really need them.
Well, thank you very much.
I think we sell out in a heartbeat.
Any other questions?
Sales and marketing right there.
She's excited to hear that. Yeah. Any questions for the applicant?
I just want to make a comment, you know?
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Do you know the price range then?
We don't, similar to the KB applicant, it's the same story. We're waiting for things to be bid out, contracted, watch the market, and like he said, we'll wait till we're very close to market before we'll actually pick out
And what is the
sales
market?
price.
I don't know what the market is. The high price home is close to 400,000?
I have no idea at this point in time, and if Susan wants to discuss it further, that's fine, but we don't have anything in place at this point.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, then I'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item?
Good evening. My name is Cherie Smith. I've been a resident of Mountain View Ranch for quite a while, so I'm happy to see the new development coming in. I was wondering, are we going to have a common area?
Hang on, we'll bring you back up in a moment. Can I just real quick get your address?
Yeah, 1345 East Avenida, Keno.
Awesome, thank you. So,
Okay. Yeah, the common area I am concerned about, and then you didn't have a pricing, so that's really something I'm interested in. Is the HOA, is that going to increase with the development? And I don't know if you said exactly how many units you're going to build. I would like to know what that's all about. Okay? Thank you.
awesome. Thank you. Anybody else from the public? No? You got one more out there. All right, she asked the questions. Okay. Perfect. I just want to make sure you didn't have any, then that way I can bring everybody up as needed. So, Troy, would you like to come back up and maybe address a couple of those comments or concerns?
As far as the common area itself, there's going to be no additional common area other than the tracks, C, G, and H that Jim talked about, that we will be improving that. The HOA, as far as dues, we have no idea at this point in time what we know what they are right now, but we have to do a reserve study, and we have to do some more information gathering from the property management company and things like that before any of that's determined.
Okay.
As far as the units, the number of units, there's 71 total units in the community. 71 left. There was 96 total, I think, and 25 of them are inhabited at this point.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Yep.
All right. We didn't technically close the public portion, so I guess I'll go ahead and do that. And then, commission?
I have a question for staff,
Sweet.
just something to clarify. You said that the 2003 plans have single-family or single-story homes on the perimeter. Is that only on that southern perimeter, or is that, that's not the east one also?
Commissioner McBride, it specifically says those lots that abut the Santa Rosa subdivision, which lies to the south. And that's within the PAD guide itself that has that restriction. And then because it's subject to the 2003 design standards, no corner lots can be 2 stories.
Okay, thank you.
But anywhere else, if it's not particularly specified within that PAD guide, they can have 2-story.
So everything up the east side of it can be
Correct.
2-story? Okay, thank you.
Assuming there's you can't have 2 in a row or 3 in a row or across the street. There may be
Right.
other
There-
additional
there- yeah.
restrictions.
Yeah.
Where you can't have 2
Same
homes
thing,
of the same
yeah.
color and elevation next to each
Yeah.
other, et cetera. And I did want to take this opportunity, since you asked me a question, to very clearly clarify I had the square footages wrong on that first screen. The smallest home is 1855 square feet. I had said it was just shy of 1,600. It's actually 1855 is the smallest. And then 2,989 square feet is the largest home proposed.
Thank you.
Move up housing, good stuff.
All right. Member Benedict.
Sure, I'll move to approve the Coastal Verde Housing Product DSA 20-00160 for Mountain View, subject to the conditions in the report.
I'll second that.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Yes, please.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Snyder? I'm sorry, Member Dugan?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Aye.
Vice Chairman McBride?
Yes.
And Chairman Miller?
Yes. Congratulations, motion is approved. Good luck to you guys, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. So we're not done yet, guys. We're packing up.
I know.
Okay, I thought we'll take a little break and then we can come back and finish this up. Oh.
We'll put it to good use.
Thank you, guys.
Whenever we answer the phones.
Zoom phone, all
Get some
right.
Dairy Queen or we need some snacks here next time. Can we get pizza?
Okay, wings.
Wings might be messy while trying to run the meeting, I don't know.
For you.
For
not
me.
For me.
All right, Director, would you like to kind of run us through your own reports now, basically, kind of?
Very quickly. The only thing I really want to report on is the city council decision that they made on parcel 3, Casa Grande Crossings. They approved both the minor general plan amendment and the rezoning to allow that 284 unit apartment complex to be constructed down there. So both of those were approved by city council. I actually emailed out the reports, or at least the building permit report, to you. If you didn't get it, let me know and I'll resend it to you, but instead of hard copies, we just emailed it to you. Okay?
Sounds
You
good.
got it? Great. That's it.
All right.
I didn't get any reports on number of housing permits or anything. I didn't receive anything.
So, is he just
You just
stated, email those to
Oh,
us?
I'm sorry.
You would've- you
That's all
would've-
right.
Motion to adjourn.
You don't have copies of that.
No, I don't have copies. You did get an email.
Second.
You should have got the email from Karina
Sure, I
Espinoza.
have a motion on the floor.
Sorry.
And a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Adjourned.